What up? What up? My man.
What up? What up?
What's going on, my brother? How you doing, man?
Shoot, chilling, man. How you doing?
Chilling, man. Another Thursday, you know.
Rocking
I
the
see you on the facts.
facts joint.
Repping.
The brother Elder Sensei. Had to
That's
get one of
it.
these joints from him. Go get yours. Go
Yeah,
get yours. Hit him up.
shout out to Sensei, the artifacts. You know, he's keeping that he's keeping that legend live, man. You know, definitely shout
Word
out.
up.
See, you got the fresh cameo cut every day. It's like that show.
Man, that joint is fresh out the box, yo. It's about 5 hours old. I heard Hip Hop Loves was doing a podcast, so I was like, I gotta get fresh to death. I can't be half stepping in this joint.
No doubt. Nah, it's a long time coming. I'm glad we were able to lock this in today. I know you got a busy schedule and everything like that, so I'm glad to, schedule a line and everything.
Yeah, for sure. Right before, because next week class starts, so man, it's just gonna be hectic.
Yeah. So what's going on? How's your summer, man?
Summer's been all right, man. Just trying to keep things moving, doing, a lot of work, getting stuff done, setting stuff up, just a whole bunch of stuff. So it's been good though. How you been, man?
Good, man. You know how it is, man. We just released a project, this Freedom Project. So it's, been a lot of legwork within that, and dealing with some stuff, workshops and stuff like that here at VO, the Center for Youth, who've done a whole bunch of fundraising in regards to that. So the center is it's open, but it'll be fully open to the programming. We're aiming at the first week of September. So we're excited about that. So we just got the last leg of fundraising. So just been focusing on that. And but aside from that, everything is good, bro. Can't complain, man. I'm just happy that we got this project finally out. It's a lot of sweat equity that went in put us out. You know how it goes, literally.
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears, man.
Yeah,
but before we even jump into anything, I'm wondering if you remember the first time when we actually politicked. That kind of, for me, is kind of like the precursor that. All of this ended up in motion, at least you and I building.
Did we got connected to Raquel? Was it Raquel? How do we get, what happened? I was trying to think about that too. And I was like, but it's been a minute. And
yeah, I actually, now that I've said that, I think we got connected probably through Sia, in that first global hip hop WhatsApp group, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Because I didn't know Raquel. You introduced me to Raquel.
I introduced Raquel because I thought, I wasn't sure if it was you, but someone was like, maybe it was Sergey that was like, hey, you need to meet Raquel. So I thought it was I couldn't
Yeah,
remember how it was. Yeah,
nah.
okay.
And I think it was Fat Jen, and
Yeah, shout out
Lucia.
then, man.
And then I
Yeah,
think
I went to
in that
college
group.
with her, man. So I've known her for a long time.
So
What's
that
up?
must be it. That must
Yeah,
be it then, because
but
I
so it's
knew
from
her.
that. So it's from the group. It's from that global group. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. And then I remember, I forget, you were doing a podcast or whatever, and you're like, hey,
Global
can
of
we
warming.
interview
Yeah,
you? Yeah, Global Love Woman. And then we talked just then, and we hadn't done any collaborative work. And
yeah.
then, fast forward to, 18 projects, dozen
Yes, I know.
songs, all this other stuff later. But I was just trying to remember. I was like,
No,
how did it all get started?
yeah, yeah, I mean totally because I thought about it one day and I was like, we never met at Trinity, even though we both been at that at event for the International Hip Hop Festival
Yeah.
there. Shout out Greg Schick and what's up, nasty lady from Spain? What's going on? She just hopped on right now.
Oh,
And
awesome, awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I was trying to figure that one out too, and I thought it was Raquel, but I couldn't remember what how it was connected. But yeah. I mean, like you said, it's like we're like 11 albums later, and it's crazy to look at that because like all these albums started just from like the pandemic, basically around
Yeah.
the pandemic when we released that. So it's like the amount of volume of projects that we've done since then has been dope. And you've been affiliated with all of them, man. And it's like, it's super dope and it's an honor, And like I say, like I always say, like you are like a global ambassador of hip hop, man. It's like, you know,
Appreciate it.
and so let's get, welcome everyone to, HHL Mic Check Thursdays, the global plug. This is Dumi Right from Zimbabwe, resides in New York. Excuse me, in DC now, the DC area. Um, Superb artist, educator. Just total, just great human being, individual, man. Throughout these like 8 to 9 years since I've known you, it's been good to like develop like even a friendship around that, it's truly appreciated, man. And talking about how like the beginnings, like the one thing I wanted to get with you is like, let's say the beginning with you, the origins, like growing up in Zimbabwe, like how did you find hip hop, or where did hip hop find you? Like, how did that all begin?
Yeah, nah, it's wild, man. Cause I always tell people like when I was growing up, it's always music in the house. So shout out to the parents for keeping us grounded in music and art and culture. And so there's always music in the house. And so I always shout out I remember growing up, we had the cassette of Miriam Makeba, vinyl records of Hugh Masekela, Dollar Brand, all
Dope.
these different groups. Um, I remember Hugh Masekela's Steamer Lies like etched in my memory because that was like a favorite around the house or whatever. And there'd always be music, and if they had like a party celebration thing, they'd always have to have music there and stuff. And then my older brother, he's late, may he rest in peace, Amanda, was a DJ, aspiring DJ. And in Zimbabwe in the early 80s. So you can imagine like hip hop is growing and changing, even the art of that stuff coming over to Zimbabwe was like new.
Sure.
Um, but he introduced us to like music, to dancing. Like he got us into like electric boogaloo and popping,
Wow.
and stuff. He managed a dance group. He was like the ultimate like hip hop entrepreneur before it was even a thing, right? A common thing. So
Mhm.
anyway, he was doing his thing, but he got us involved. But he always have stacks and stacks of music and stacks of records. So pouring through his records or listening to his tapes, he'd have like tapes, and he'd always be like, "Listen, listen, did you hear that? Did you hear that?"
Uh-huh.
I'd be like, "What?" He'd be like, "Yeah, that sound, like or whatever, And so he listened to like a lot of jazz and all that stuff. But so he's a well-rounded individual musically. But then his
Mhm.
record collection, pouring through that, discovered. I remember the first time I heard Eric B for President. I remember
Wow.
hearing Ice-T Colors. I remember hearing the Sugar Hill Gang records, and not just rappers alike, just like, Eighth Wonder and different stuff like that. Pouring through his crates here and like Run DMC singles. and stuff. Like he had just a bunch of stuff, but he also had a lot of soul, you know, because like I said, he's well. So he had Loose Ends, he had Imagination, he had Soul to Soul, he had,
Yo,
you know, Alexander O'Neill, like
yeah,
all the
wow.
stuff that was popping. You know what I mean? Like Lakeside. Roger
Woo!
Troutman, like his plays
Yeah,
were deep and stuff. And so listening to that, you know, and a lot of stuff, you know, you think of Lakeside, you know, a lot of stuff has been sampled. He had
yeah,
like Funkadelic, and I remember seeing Funkadelic cassette and like the crazy artwork and drawings. I'm like, what the heck is this? And even the name, like Funkadelic, like Midnight Star. I don't know if y'all remember Freakazoid from the
yeah,
80s and stuff like that. And so it was just like all the grooves, Evelyn Champagne Kings, all so he got us into music heavy. And so then the thing that kind of changed it for me was like listening to all the stuff that I'd been listening to was cool. And on the radio, you know, they play Madonna or Michael Jackson, you know, kind of the popular hits. They didn't
yeah.
play any hip hop on the radio at that point. But hearing hip hop, like when I heard Eric B for president. It was so different, man. It was so compelling, and it was like more of a story. You know, I always used to laugh with my brother and be like, "Yo, why are these songs about guys begging and you know in love and all about like what else is there? You know, there's like one subject that all these R&B and pop songs are talking about."
Yeah.
Um, and so it was always funny. Um, but then I heard hip hop and I was like, oh man, this is different. This is like unique. And it felt like uniquely our own, you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like
Yeah.
the other generation's music. It felt like our generation and stuff and seeing the swagger, seeing the outfits, hearing the rhymes and the different styles. You know, Rakim didn't sound like Mantronics. Mantronics didn't
Right,
sound like Run DMC. Run DMC didn't sound like LL Cool J. The Beastie Boys came out and I was like, wait, what? These
right.
dudes are crazy, man. But it was
Yeah.
all about. I remember, I think my sister bought me a Dana Dane with Fame. She had come to the U.S.
Dang.
and she got me the Dana Dane cassette, and I had never heard of him when
Mm-hmm.
I got the cassette. But like listening to the storytelling and the rhymes and the jokes and the humor, it like again showed me like a whole different perspective. Because you got to think about like I don't know, a pop song. They're not usually like funny or humorous, right? Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
jokes in the pop song. It's just a
Yeah,
song,
yeah,
right? About
yeah.
yeah, I had fun, I had fun. But these cats are cracking jokes, telling stories. You know,
Mhm.
there's like a plot twist at the
No
end.
doubt.
You know, when he's in the office, Nightmares. I remember Nightmares was
Yeah.
like the joint, man, and stuff. And so anyway, diving into that, it just felt real, man. Like it was like, wow. And so that, you know, early 80s, mid to late 80s is kind of when we were just immersed in it. And it was hard getting it because, again, couldn't just walk in a record store and be like, hey, I want to get the new LL. It wasn't available. They had music, but it was pop music or else
Right.
local music. So you had to have either friends, cousins, you know, aunts, uncles, whatever, sister, brother, overseas that would send stuff to you. And then when people get it,
Wow.
you trade, you know, like baseball cards, you'd be like trading. Or, I guess today I say baseball cards is old, like Pokemon cards for people.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, you got this, I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
give
trade
you
that
that.
Eric B for that special ed, yo. What's up with
And
that?
and the trade is really a dub. It's like I ain't giving you my joint. I'll just let you dub it if you let me dub your joint. So then if you had a double
Word.
decker, you were rolling. You know, anyone who
Yeah.
had a double cassette recorder was rolling because it'd be like, oh yeah, I'll dub this for you. Well, I don't have any new music, but I've got a double cassette. So bring your stuff over. Just make me a copy of it, you know, that type of
Yeah.
thing.
And that's back also when like album covers were so unique and like special. So like you weren't gonna really give if you're gonna say someone want like some of those you want to keep the cover art, the credits and everything like that too. So I can imagine like, yeah, I'm gonna dub it and keep the original, no doubt.
Yeah, yeah. I can even think like I mean you didn't have much access to it, but like sometimes cats would do a photocopy of the cover to just be
Yeah.
like, yo, I'm gonna instead of just TDK C90, I'm gonna put a copy and cut it out and slide that joint in. Like, yo, I got It Takes a Nation of Millions up right here. You know? I was
Nah,
describing to somebody like when De La Soul 3 Feet High and Rising was out, somebody got it in the neighborhood And we
Uh-huh.
literally went like 10 deep to this dude's house, put it in, and just sat there, whole of side A, whole of side B, listening, end to end to the whole joint, and
So
just like experiencing music that way, like for the first time, it was like
yes.
a collective experience.
Speaking of De La, yeah, they were down here last October, and shout out to Shayla. Shayla is she's been affiliated with Hip Hop Love since the beginning. She just hopped on, and she's based in Rio too, and helped out so much with Hip Hop
Oh,
Love.
cool.
So she was actually at the De La Soul concert too when they were down here too. It was good to connect with them as well. But it's crazy, like just to think that you know from that time to now, just how hip hop has evolved so much,
Yep.
and still artists from that came up from that era, are still relevant, and still doing so much dope stuff, still touring, still making albums, which I think is just super dope about hip hop, and I think, because sometimes people talk about how hip hop's dead. No, it's not dead, it's just like you gotta know your lane and what you like, and there's so many different things. There's so many different types of hip hop now that you get from drill, trap, golden era. Now we got the titanium era now that we're starting right now with that,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and
For sure.
yeah, just so it's pretty dope. And yeah, man. So we got to get into how did you start Zimbabwe Legit? How did that all evolve? Like when coming with all that from you?
Yeah.
Let the
So
people know about that.
yeah, that it's crazy and it's funny. L Train just did a post on a YouTube short and it just took off talking about the Zimbabwe Legit story. And so I've been getting hit up by a lot of people from Zim, some who knew the story, or some who knew the music, and some, were today years old when they found out about Zimbabwe Legit. But learning from listening to Rakim, listening to Run DMC and all that stuff, UTFO, the Roxanne saga, all of that stuff. Everybody was unique. Even within a group, you know what I mean? You had Dr. Ice, you had the educated rapper, within
Yeah.
UTFO itself, it wasn't like carbon copies and no group or artist sounded like each other. So that was the thing we took away from that. And then the other thing was realizing like it's so many artists. I mean, now it's a gazillion, but then maybe it was, hundreds of artists. Wow, how do you stand out? Like, what do you do that's different? And the
Mm-hmm.
thing that always came back to was, be true to yourself and tell the story that you have a unique perspective of, right? So if you're from I remember hearing the message for the first time, Grandmaster Flash and
Mm-hmm.
the Furious Five. And I was like, wow, because when you talk about the U.S., I left when I was like 5. So I, little or whatever, didn't know, about the Bronx or New York, whatever in those days. And so seeing them and hearing them tell that story that was so poignant or whatever, it was like, okay, that's what we need to do. We need to tell the story, but from an African perspective. Like, what are we going through as hip
Yeah.
hop heads, hip hop fans, young cats too? You know what I mean? I was at high school, finishing high school. Like, what have we got to say about, the state of the world, our perspective, how we get down, how we like to have fun from our
Yeah.
unique perspective? And also, like I mentioned, growing up around African music, Zimbabwean music from South Africa and the continent at large. I mean, we even had Fela Kuti in the house, all this stuff. So it was like, how about if we incorporate that? Because hip hop is, a fusion of different genres and elements and
Absolutely.
influences. You know what I mean? Even what is it? Paid in Full
Sure.
had like the Middle East, whatever Indian or
Yeah.
whatever the sample, those
Yeah.
kinds of things in the vocals. And so it's like, how about if we infuse that African rhythm in it or whatever? And so we were working on joints and working on joints. The other thing that was hard to get in Zimbabwe was access to news about the music business or whatever. We got a
Mm.
couple of write-ons and Big Beat. We used to get Hip Hop Connection later on from the
Yeah.
UK.
Yeah. That's a,
Um,
I used to love that magazine. Yeah, it was dope.
yeah, and then even there was like a magazine called Blues and Soul, which is mainly like R&B and soul,
Uh-huh.
and stuff and jazz, but they'd also have some hip hop columns and everything. So those were like prized possessions. And if
Nice.
somebody got a
Yeah.
copy, again, it'd be like, "Yo, can I see your copy? Can I, whatever," and all of that stuff. And then the source came to Zim, through people or whatever, because it started, getting bigger and going from like that newsletter to like an actual magazine.
Yeah.
Shout out to the late Dave Funkenklein. He had the column called Gangsta Limpin' with Funkenklein.
Yeah.
And his
That.
whole thing was global hip hop. You want to
Yeah.
talk about like connecting people from around the world, because he'd always shout out, "Yo, my people in Japan, what's good? What's happening?
Uh-huh.
Germany, tap in, UK, let me know." And so we're like, "Oh, perfect," because he'd also list his address at the source, and be like,
Yeah.
"Yo, send me a note, let me know what's going on." So hit him up. He was surprised because he at the time was in charge at Red Alert Productions. So
Mm-hmm.
Red Alert Productions was doing promotions and all this stuff with Tribe, who was coming up. I remember
Yeah.
getting Description of a Fool as a single, because then he'd send us like promos and stuff.
Dope.
Obviously, Jungle Brothers, DJ Red Alert,
Shout out to
the
JB.
Prop Master, Jimmy, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
And then
man.
so anyway, he was involved in there. So I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. You're talking about Africa, the Jungle Brothers, Black is
Yeah.
Black. Like it fits right in." So we told him about what we were doing. He's like, "Yo, hit me with some stuff or whatever." And I will never forget when we met him. He was like, "Yeah, when you guys first said you were rapping in Zimbabwe, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like, kind of like, yeah, it's great. He's like, when I heard the music though, I was like, yo, these cats actually got skills." um, but the biggest thing was like now, we're doing Hip Hop Loves Project, and there's people in Germany and,
Sure.
here, there, and everywhere, in Brazil and the UK and Australia.
Yeah,
And you can do it because of the internet. But pre-internet, you was literally mailing stuff back and forth or whatever. So like when
yeah,
we sent
man.
him a demo, it was literally in an envelope and like wait a couple weeks, see if he writes back and
Word.
stuff. But he did hit back and he was like, "Yo, the joints is dope." But he was like, "Yo, if you come to the US, hit me up,
Mm-hmm.
then we can kind of see." And,
Yeah.
to our perspective, he's still, the magazine dude. It's dope. It's big up, he's
Yeah.
writing for this magazine, but that's all we knew. And he was like, "Yeah, do you think you'll ever come to the US?" Because he had told him, like, our family used to be in the US. He's like, "You
Uh-huh.
think you're ever coming back?" And as a matter of fact, my brother and I were coming back, go to college and see what we could pursue,
Mm-hmm.
with our creative endeavors. And so he was like, "Oh, bet if you're coming," it was like, several months in the future. "If you're coming, hit me up. Red Alert Productions on 29th Street, New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the phone number. Call me up. Let's try to set up a meeting and see if we can make something happen." And so when we came across the pond, man, we went back in the studio because we're like, "Oh, we meeting with a dude. Like, we gotta make
Bring
these
some heat.
demos even doper, like, take it up a notch and still
Yeah.
incorporate those concepts of that fusion of the cultures of the music and the messages and what we're trying to say." And then went to New York, which is crazy, man, because, like, I think it was 1990, probably
Mm-hmm.
summer of 1990, man. And 42nd Street was not like 42nd Street now. That joint was
Oh, hell no.
gritty, man. Port Authority, like,
Yeah.
gritty, bro. I'm
Yeah,
telling
it
you,
was a
man.
little grimy out there.
Little grimy, and here come these two, 18, 19-year old, whatever. I guess my brother was 21 at the time, like coming into New York for the first time. I hadn't been to New York City, on a Greyhound bus, landing
Wow.
in Port Authority to try to, navigate to 29th Street,
Woo.
figure out how, like, do we walk? Do we catch a bus or whatever? And my uncle had told us, he lived upstate New York, so he wasn't like a New York City familiar cat either.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Yeah, just don't get on the subway and you'll be fine," or whatever. And we had on like dashikis and like beads and medallions. And he was like, "Well, you might want to put on like a bomber jacket just so you don't look like total tourists when you run up in that joint." So we had on a bomber jacket, still came out Port Authority, looking new, because people like, "You need help? You guys lost? You need someone to show you where to go?" And like, "Nah, now And we ended up asking like a doorman at like one of the buildings when we were walking around, like how to get, because it was next to the Empire State Building. So like
Uh-huh.
West 29th Street, we
Yeah.
didn't know that, but he was like, oh yeah, well, he's like, that's near Empire State. Go down this way, go whatever, whatever. And we walked and knew nothing about the music business at that point, like, because how would we, right? We just
Yeah,
been
for sure.
performing and recording. We had talent, but we just been doing it on our own. We hadn't like there's no real label system or nothing.
Yeah.
But we met, and that's why it was a blessing. We met with Dave because he was like a real stand-up dude, a real
That's dope, man.
honorable guy. Because you
It's
can
hard to
get
find
some
in the industry,
opposite.
man. It's hard to
Yeah,
find, as you know
yeah,
now.
yeah. And it's funny now, like, I mean, may he rest in peace. He passed away back in, but everybody that talks about him is always like, yo, Dave was such a good dude, like such.
Hmm.
And then I also hear about his influence because at the point I just thought, we initially thought he was a writer, then found out he was doing promotions, found out he was doing the New Music Seminar, DMC battles. I mean, I was listening to a podcast with Jazzy Jeff, and he was talking about, oh yeah, Funk and Klein was running the battle, and Jazzy Jeff
Hmm.
was competing. So it's like, oh man, this cat did a lot, yo. He touched
Yeah.
a lot of people and did a lot of work and a lot of good stuff in the industry. But anyway, when we met with him, no experience. But you know what our experience was? I don't know if you remember EPMD. Please listen to my demo.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's what we thought it was like. We're like, okay, because I
Yeah.
remember he was like, we had
It
grins
was
on our
suitable for
chins.
you.
And he's like, where do we sign or whatever? So me and him had that line. He's like, we gonna play the demo and we gonna bob our heads like, yo, you hear that? And then we're like, where do we sign? That was our catchphrase. But we talked to him and he was like, yeah, nah, the stuff. He's like, I liked what I heard from y'all before, man.
Yeah.
He's like, that was real cool. He's like, and the stuff you're bringing to me, he's like, I think I can really work with it. And he's like, I'm not just a writer at this magazine. He's like, I'm actually going to the West Coast to start up a rap label or
Mm.
whatever. And he was like, and I've been talking because he'd been talking to us, once we knew we were coming to New York and we'd been working on demos. So he's like, yeah, I want to introduce you. He's like, what I really want, he's like, y'all have dope concepts and lyrics. He's like, I want a New York producer to get behind you because that sound is going to be what's going to, elevate it.
Yeah.
And so he's like, there's this new group coming up. So this is like 1990. There's this new group coming out called the Black Sheep. He's like, and their
Wow.
producers, Mr. Long. He's like,
Mr.
I'm going to introduce
Long.
you to
Shout out
him.
Mr. Long.
He's like, so we actually just went, he took us to their label,
Uh-huh.
and Mercury, and he's like, yeah, let's meet. Did a meet and greet, met execs from the Mercury or whatever, and we spit some freestyles in the thing because we were like, yo, we were like amped, like, yo, we're here. They were like, yo, that's dope. And Mr. Long was like, yeah, I got something with y'all in mind or whatever, and so that kind of led to the whole process, man. And obviously intricate steps or whatever. Some
For
of it will
sure.
be in the movie or the book, but as they
Oh.
say, the rest is history. Like, I mean,
No.
Mr. Long cooked up, a dope beat, and it was actually a process because Dave was going to the West Coast to start a label. Hollywood, like the opposite of a Hollywood complex, is
Yeah.
Hollywood Basic. So
Yeah.
it's like a Hollywood Basic.
Yeah, I remember it was Hollywood Basic, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I got this group called Organized Confusion. He's like, they're going to be the first ones I'm going to put out. And he was
Yeah.
working on a project with the lifers. It's like people
Mhm.
actually doing life in prison in Raleigh.
Yeah.
He did like a project with them. And then he's like, I'll add you guys to the roster. But he's like, the label wants like a proof of concept, like the label demos. So he's like, we're going to the studio with the producers I have in mind, the concepts you guys have in mind, and then bring it to the label, and then the decision makers will decide if they actually want to put it out. So it's kind of like, the second stage. You finish stage one, young man, get ready for stage two. It's like Super Mario Brothers or whatever. And so we finished that. Yeah, exactly, right? So we finished stage one. You made it out of Port Authority alive.
Right? That is a big stage.
Just straight up. And so we get to the studio. We recorded at Calliope. He's like, yeah, I'm going to have y'all record at Calliope. And at the time, didn't know. He's like, yo, this is what De La records. This is what Prince Paul. This is Jungle Brothers, like historic.
Yeah.
So we went in there with Mr. Long and some other producers. We had our ideas, concept, our rhymes and everything, and put together a demo. that went to the label. Label dug it. They were like, yeah, let's move forward with this. And initially we were called the Brothers from the Mother. That was our kind of
The brothers
moniker.
on the mother?
The Brothers from the Mother, because we're also real brothers. You know, my Akim and I. Shout out to
Yeah,
Akim. What up? What up? What up? He's
yeah,
based
big
in New
up.
York City, but
Quick big up
they
to Stars of Beyond. They hopped on C Boogie and
oh
Eclipse. Hip Hop
dope
Loves
dope.
Avengers in the building.
What up? What up? Eclipse Stars and Beyond. C Boog. How y'all doing, man? Hope y'all are good.
Go
But
ahead.
yeah, man. So it was cool because then again too, it was like another level up. Like we're in an actual Calliope Studios, the famous Calliope Studios,
Yeah.
recording on actual gear. Watching the sound engineer, and the
You on 2 inch?
producer. It was on the Ampex tape, like
Okay,
the
yeah.
tape. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the
2 inch,
tape.
yeah, the two. Big up
Yeah,
the
the
Mets,
real.
man. What's good, man? From Tanzania, what's good?
No, yeah. Shout
You
out,
got a
shout out.
project out
Everybody
too. What's
tapping
good,
in.
man? Yeah,
Everybody
thanks for
tapping
tapping
in.
in, man.
Yeah. We gonna have to do some work, man. I know we've
Yeah,
been working,
yo, Max,
but
I hit you
next
up, man. We wanted to get you on this first project. We need to get you on the next project, bro. So I'm gonna holler at you.
word. Now
What's
next
good,
we putting in
Eclipse?
work.
Yeah, he's putting in mad work, yo. I've seen the evolution over the last few years, man. What's good, yo?
Yeah.
Congrats on your project, bro. But go ahead.
Yeah. Big up, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But now
Yes.
it's cool just seeing that professional setup, the recording and everything, man. It was like super cool just observing, learning, watching Mr. Long like take bits and pieces and construct this whole joint or whatever. Because he put it together, like it wasn't like the track was already there and we just went in the booth and spit. He
Yeah.
actually like it was laying the track as we were there.
As you were doing it, okay, that's what's
And
up.
like he like laid the track, put it together, got the different samples. He had the SP, what is it, the S, whatever. I'm
SB
not even gonna
1200.
say. I don't know if he had a 1200 in there, but I know there was a rack sampler because they brought in a
Uh-huh.
whole bunch of gear from the Toy Factory. I don't know if Toy Factory is still running, but they had like a whole bunch of
I
gear.
don't think I'm not sure actually, but I don't think so. But yeah, we have to check that one out.
Yeah, but anyway, so he watching him lay it. We went in the booth, we did our thing, adjust course correct, come with the hooks, set it up and everything. But it was cool. Label dug the demos. They're like, yeah, let's move forward with a project. But back to the Brothers from the Mother. So we would call the Brothers from the Mother, but it was a lot of brothers group, right?
Yeah,
There's even the Brothers Johnson. So they were like, well, if we
thanks.
call the Brothers from the Mother, people will just think it's like a cool name, like a shout out to.
Yeah.
They won't really realize like y'all are actually from the
This is not
motherland,
trendy. This is actually, yeah, you're legitimately like what is
Yeah,
going on, and y'all are brothers for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
and you
and you're
just
from the
nailed it on the
motherland.
head. Yeah, you said it's legitimately. So it's like you're legitimately from Zimbabwe. You're the legit article. So it's like
Yeah,
Zimbabwe legit. So I
yeah.
gotta shout out Funkencline, man, because he kind of coined that name.
So,
Was we brainstorming like Zimbabwe legit? Y'all are the genuine article. So it was
yeah,
dope, man. Like, and I think about how long ago that was. So 1990. We're in 2026. Still at it. You know what I mean? It's like a
yeah.
blessing to still be going. You know what I mean? Like them batteries haven't run out yet. Check my bat and see. But like them
Man,
batteries still go.
nah, man. It definitely you fully energized, man. You're solar. You from the motherland and you solar, my boy, my G. You know what I mean?
Word
It's
up.
never ended, my man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man. So, yeah, you've done like so many different projects and like just so many different. It kind of amazes me because sometimes I'm like, I'll just find like a pop up a new song and I'm like, damn, you did this collab with Chuck D, then you're like Chuck Rock, and then you have all these things. Like, talk about how you've just connected with so many different artists, just in the industry that are well known and respected. And I think it's super dope that from where you just telling your story now and just how you connected with all these artists and did all these collaborations. Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. That's the crazy thing about it. Like I always think about, so the story I told you, you write a letter to a magazine,
Yeah.
you end up, you know, signing a deal and recording a record with Mr. Long from the Black Sheep and DJ Shadow on production, like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I think sometimes in your youthful exuberance, in my youthful exuberance, you don't know what the limit is. You know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
know your limitations in a good way, like not
Yeah, for
being dumb
sure.
about it. Like you're not trying to defy gravity and jump off a building. It's like you don't know what's impossible. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so you
see,
just
Boogie just said it right here. Ageism is a disease. You got to keep it moving, bro.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah. That's straight up. And so you really like just do anything and everything because you think you can do it. Like nobody can tell you like that's not possible. Like why not? I
yeah,
should be able to do this. And I think that's a good thing sometimes to have is that like you know the possibilities are endless, you know what I mean?
I think
And
some of
so
it's kind of like the coin. I coin it like you got to have this sense of a delusion in a
yep.
positive way. You know, like
Yeah.
you're just like, all right, like no matter what, like someone could be like, yo, like, you'd be like, yo, I'm gonna do a song with Jay-Z. Like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, and then
Right.
but you're like, no, I'm gonna get this done. And you know, lo and behold, after a while, you get it done. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, so a lot of the collaborations for me was like, well, I'm not just gonna just collaborate with whoever, right? We've got to kind of have similar mindsets, similar visions, similar styles. And so obviously people that
Sure.
I enjoyed hearing music from or liked is like who I gravitate towards or whatever. And I'm gonna give a shout out to YZ, man. I gotta credit him because he kind of in my hey, I
Yeah,
want to shoot for the stars. He was so down and willing to collaborate or
yeah,
whatever. And then that
that's
just
tough.
kind of was like a proof of concept. Like, oh,
Yeah,
well, YZ is gonna do it, everybody else is gonna be excited about it too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
because it's like when you get too many, doors slammed in your face, sometimes you can be like, oh man, is this ever gonna work? Like, what's
yeah.
going on? But like, he was just, he's legendary, and he was like, yeah, let's do it, bro. And so after, we had done the Zimbabwe legit, and then had gotten album never came out, just the EP had come out, and then some years later, because the label had folded and different stuff had transpired, as things happen in the industry. We did
Yeah.
get a reissue of it several years later with this label called Glow in the Dark Records, and that was great because it kind of reinvigorated the brand and brought it back
So
to people's attention and everything. And so that got a good release globally as well with the
nice.
special limited edition Japanese version of the album and everything.
So
We did a vinyl and CD at the time and digital and everything. So that was good. But yeah, so when we're trying to figure out our next move, it's like, well, what do I do next? Like, how do we, do we come back as Zimbabwe legit? Do I just do Dumi Right solo joints? Do we do joints together or
hmm
whatever? And I was like, man, it would be real cool to collaborate with some of these cats that I've admired and respected.
yeah.
And so YZ was one of them. And actually, we got in touch. He had originally, so I should say this, back in the days when we were doing the stuff with the Source magazine and all that or whatever, and we did like a 2-page article that we
hmm
wrote in the Source about like hip hop in Zimbabwe and Africa. LL Cool J cover, I think it was like April 1991.
Wow.
But we wrote like a 2-page article, had pictures of ourselves. Like, y'all got any promo photos? Like, promo what? Like, huh? So we were in Harlem. So we went, how the
I
guys would
got a
have the
Polaroid.
backdrop? When you go by and they're like, take a picture in front of the backdrop or whatever, you do your pose. That was our press photo, like literally for the Source magazine article. We just stood in front of the joint and just be like, hey, we got a picture now. Um, but
That's
yeah,
dope.
so anyway, YZ had his office in the Source building, Source
Okay.
magazine, same floor and stuff. And so we went 720 management and had talked to him or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, that's dope. I like what y'all are doing. We're like, yo, we love the fact you had the Mandela when Mandela visited the US and he filmed his Thinking of a Master Plan video, in the streets when that happened. So we talked about that. But we had talked to him about management. He ended up
Yeah.
moving to Atlanta before we solidified that. But so I had been connected with him. So he's like one of the first people I had reached out to when I was doing this next project later on down the line, you know, in the 2000s, called House of Stone, because Zimbabwe
Okay.
means House of Stone. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do an album. It's called House of Stone. Take it back to the essence. And so I hit him up, and he's like, oh yeah, most definitely. He's like, and I think he had actually asked, like, yo, are you still doing music? You haven't stopped, have you? And I was like, nah, I was still at it. He's like, you working on anything? I'm like, I'm actually working on a new album. And he's like, yo, I'm definitely down. He's like, but let's do it quickly before we all get distracted or whatever. So that's like a lesson I'm taking with me too. It's like, if you're going to do something, you got to do it. You know, time is of
When the
essence.
iron strikes
If,
hard, you gotta go with
yeah.
it. Yep.
If you're like, oh, I'll do that. Yeah, let's connect in 2 months. And, you know, then
Then it's
life
2 years,
happens.
or it
Yeah.
doesn't even happen sometimes. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's no guarantees. So anyway, I appreciated that he was like, "Yo, let's go." I shout out my man Saint on production because he had hit me
Okay.
with the banger that ended up being the song "Vicious Cycle." Saint
Okay.
from the group The Good People, dope producer. Dope. He's based in New York too, but he had hit
Nice.
me with the joint. I sent it to YZ, and of course, like as a master that he is, so the song's called "Vicious Cycle." You know, I asked him, you know, do a verse or whatever, and he opens up the joint. He's like, Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe, legit, yo. And then he goes
That's
into
dope.
his spiel. And I was like, man, you set it off. Like, you know, now y'all really, I've got extra batteries. Y'all really can't tell me nothing. It's going to keep me going.
It's like steroids right now.
For sure, for sure. And then he was like super dope because even when the album dropped, like when we had like a release party at Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York, he
Oh,
was like,
nice.
oh, he's like, when's the release party? I told him. He's like, and he was in Atlanta. He's like, okay, I'm gonna come through. I was like, I thought you said you're in Atlanta. He's like, yeah, I am. But I'm gonna come through. I want to support. This is a big deal. Like we celebrating albums. He's like, I got people in New York.
That's
He's
super
like,
dope.
and I was like, yo, could we rock the Vicious Circle? He's like, oh, I would hope so.
He's like, I ain't coming from the ATL, but
Yeah, so that was this, and I'm still kind of in awe, like, yo, you know, not only just, you know, I remember being in Binghamton watching BET and thinking of a master plan on before I'd even met the man, and then learning about his background and history, getting to meet him and interact with him. We actually performed with him. This is a real cool memory that I have. X-Clan was having a party for Professor X at what's the name? Indigo Blues in New York City.
Yeah, Indigo. I
And
remember, yeah,
downstairs joint or whatever.
downstairs, yeah.
And they had YZ on the bill, and we were on the bill. I think it was some other groups performing too. I don't want to attribute people that were at a different show. I'm mixing it up. But YZ was definitely on the bill, you know, closing it out. And we were on the bill, so we did our joint. He did his joint. And it was really cool. So anyway, again, building, you know, collaborating, you know, networking, talking. And so it made sense years later to be like, yo, I want to collab with this dude. I like the way he moves. I love what he has to say. And then not even to mention when I was in college in the 90s, on the radio station, one of my favorite joints, Return of the Holy One.
Return of the Holy
you know,
One.
The Ghetto's Been Good to Me. All those joints I used to play, you know, same thing with the shout out Aofax, you know, used to play Elder Sensei and Tame One all the time, wrong side of the tracks, come on with the come on. So all that music, man. And so like building with these cats years later is so dope to me to be able to do that. But yeah, once we got the YZ joint laid and it was dope and it was banging, had some other producers hit us with some tracks, was hitting up people. I had spoken to Prince Poe. He was like, yeah, he was down to do something.
Dope.
And Stickman from Dead Prez, he was down. I remember being on my house on the couch watching TV, and you know how sometimes you miss a phone call? And I'm like, oh, it's a missed call. And it was Stickman hitting me back. And he left a voicemail that I ended up using at the intro of the song, Evil That Men Do. Said, yo, this is Stick, chopping it up with you. Just want to let you know I'm about to do the thing or whatever. But it was just real cool. Talk to Prince Poe. He was like, Evil That Men. Oh, yeah. He's like, easy. Like, Not so much to say about that or whatever. That came together.
Yeah, you
And then the
know.
other fun thing that I love to do, bro, and it's kind of like what we're doing with all these compilations with this project, Freedom Project and everything, is
Yeah,
put those unlikely pairings together. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah, for
people who've
sure.
never been on a track together. And so I remember the song called Wake 'Em Up hit up Chub Rock because I always loved what Chub
Yeah,
Rock did and always
yeah.
loved his music and
Always
everything.
love it. Yeah,
And he was definitely the party starter always, right? But also conscious, he had them
yeah.
lyrics and everything. But hit him up to get on this joint called Wake 'Em Up. He was definitely down to do it. I hit up Vast Air from Cannibal
Fast
Ox
there.
and was
Wow.
like, yo, you down to do this joint? He's like, oh yeah, nah, for sure. He was down to do it. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know who else is on it? He's like, who? I was like, Chub Rock. He's like, word? Chub Rock is on the joint with us? I'm like, for sure. And so we blazed that joint. And then it was just like, a
Just
stone
love.
rolling downhill, like it was just like momentum galore. And
I got
I say once that happened, I never looked back. Like,
that's
never
so.
looked
I
back.
gotta pause it right here, real quick, just to say this because and see Boogie can say this from being from tri-state area. Like you coming from Zimbabwe, created, coming over and then getting connected, and then you collaborating with, doing getting a deal, and then collaborating all these like dope marquee respectable artists at this point, like because this is at the time like you couldn't like it got to a point with certain point in the industry where if you had a budget, some people would just do a song for a check. You know what I mean? Like these people are just genuinely doing a song with you because they fuck with you and they fuck with your music and they fuck with you. You know what I'm saying? So that's a respect because there are a lot of artists that were like born and raised in New York that don't even have that type of discography that you have, So I just wanted to give you your flowers just to say, like,
Appreciate
that's
that.
much respect for that, man. I mean, there are people like would have been like, damn, I would love to do a joint with Chubb Rock or YZ. And yeah, shout out to C Boogie, shout out Pranslow, shout out YZ, because that was a whole dance troupe too, man. C Boogie's a dance too, and shout out Ziggy, Pranslow from BK. That's
Word
all my
up.
people uptown. And so, well, Prans from Brooklyn, but the rest of the crew from uptown. But yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out
Dope,
Prince
man.
Pope. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that real quick before you continue, man. Like, they give you your flowers on that for real, man.
Nah, I appreciate that. And the other thing I appreciated, man, is that these cats even came, even just with, an independent release and were willing to come in and collaborate and work on the joint, because some cats, it's like, oh, well, is that, too small of a thing was, what I mean?
Yeah,
But like these cats also saw the vision of what I was doing and, knowing the history and everything. And it was also cool, having been a former label mate with Prince Poe,
yeah.
having traveled to Japan with Monch at Prince Poe
Nice.
back in the day with Hollywood Basic. And that was
Yeah,
actually like our first professional tour going to Japan with Prince Poe. Like we'd been performing pretty much all our lives, but like a label sponsored tour in, early 90s
that's
going
dope.
over there. So it was cool to, full circle, get him on a joint. And he crushed the track. He killed it, like straight up, like everybody did. And that was so exciting to me because it's almost like I'm creating an album, but I'm also so excited because I'm hearing all these people I admired and respected, you
Yeah,
know, on the joint with me. So I'm like
yeah.
playing those joints to death over and over, like, oh man, I can't believe this is real. Like this
That's
is real.
dope.
And then had like Breeze Ever Flowing on a joint.
Shout
And
out
him and my
Breeze,
brother were
man.
real tight. And he was like super dope. And I remember he was actually in Virginia doing a show, and we've been talking about doing it. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in Virginia. He's like, actually, if there's a studio out there, the day after the show, maybe we hop in and lace it. And I remember, yeah, again, I'd been recording for years at that point, but just watching him and being like, oh, okay, would take notes on how he does his ad libs, how he
Yeah,
does his, how he does his
yeah,
delivery,
yeah.
and the different parts. He adds a hype track and all this stuff like that. Little tips and tricks, but seeing other artists at work, especially the masters, do their thing. But shout out to Breeze Everflowing. He's done a couple joints with me. He was on just the most recent record too. And we're cooking up something new as well.
Dope.
So mad gratitude for like all these cats, like
Word.
you said, like that, even just got down with this cat. You know,
It's
when I was in
dope.
high school in Zimbabwe, I'd never be like, yo, we'll be in America. I'm gonna record with so and so and so. You just like, hey, I'm just trying to make music and hopefully somebody will want to listen to it.
And it happened,
Um,
man. And you went to Binghamton?
my uncle lived in Binghamton, so
You lived in
when I was in
You were staying?
college, yeah, so I didn't go to Binghamton
Okay.
University, but I lived there over the summers when I'd come
Okay.
home. I went
Yeah,
to
because I was about
Virginia
to say,
Tech.
damn, man, because I went to Syracuse, and I was like, man,
Oh,
we never
okay.
crossed paths. I was like, yo, that makes crazy. I was like, you went, I was like thinking about when you said Binghamton. I was like, what? I was like, damn. I was like, I used to be in Binghamton a lot, you know?
Oh
So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
now I was born in Syracuse though. But like I said, I left when I was little. Like I was like
That's crazy.
5 when we left or whatever, man. But
Like,
yeah, upstate New York.
swoosh. Man, I don't miss them winners, man.
Right?
I definitely do
Ain't no
not miss
snow
them
in
winners.
Zimbabwe, so you
4
go
feet,
from no
4
snow
feet
to
in a nightfall, man. Oh Lord, I mean, I remember that. Yo, there'd be. I remember from like mid October to like April, you might not even see the ground, like the grass, man. I know, you know.
yeah, yeah. Nah,
Yeah.
straight up, man. And coming from Africa to that, can you
Oh, I mean,
imagine?
that's
You
just a whole
know?
culture shock. That had to be a whole culture shock change, dude, dealing with that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, nah, straight up, man. But
Yeah.
it was just cool, man, to be able to record and
Yeah.
I think regain momentum because I ain't gonna lie, you know, kind of the whole end of the Hollywood Basics situation kind of knocked us off track a little bit, knocked us down.
Happens,
Like,
man, in the
you
industry,
know,
man. Yeah.
label, you know, folds, and then it's like, what do we do? How are we
Yeah.
gonna proceed? You know, at one point we weren't even sure if we had like rights to do stuff as Zimbabwe legit or not, or you know,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like assert, you know how sometimes they'll assert control, but they can't let
Yeah.
you release
Yeah.
anything and all
Uh-huh.
that stuff. And so it was like kind of a period of, you know, self-searching to figure out like, yeah, what does this all mean? What's really good? But just keep going. I mean, that's one of the
I'll take it back to your label, mate. It was a kind of a period of organized confusion. You know?
exactly, right? Right. This might have even been disorganized confusion.
Yeah.
But I remember Funkenklein had said something to me, and he was like, "Man, just keep pushing." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just don't stop. He's like, "You get it going on. Just don't stop. Just keep working." And so
Yeah.
I always taken those words to heart, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
just keep them wheels turning. You know what I mean?
Got it, man. I mean, it's gotten you here right now. We're talking, you know, 2026, and you know, you're still doing it, man. So you've been pushing, brother. You know.
Yeah, not for real, man. Like, and it's been a good ride too, because like I think when you do music and art and culture, and then the extension of things, you know, through workshops and
Yeah.
teaching and building and collaborating, um, you know, you're winning already. Like, I
Yeah.
think a big issue, I think, with the industry, or not even the industry, but with like musicians and artists, one, we're like really hard on ourselves and stuff as far as like measure of success. Like, yo, I
Yeah.
didn't, but I think a lot of the measures we use are incorrect, right? Like,
Absolutely.
somebody was like, yo, if you're asking, you know, which animal is the best, and the test to see who's the best is climbing trees, you know, the turtle will be the worst because he can't climb a tree. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like, what's the exercise you're using? You know, everybody's not meant to be a sprinter, right?
For
Everybody's
sure.
not meant to be a weightlifter. So if it's like, let's do a challenge and lift 300 pounds, and that's who's the GOAT, you know, that's
Yeah.
everybody. And so I think sometimes the analogy is like record sales. Like, oh, let's
Right.
see who has the most sales. And I'd be like, man, Vanilla Ice outsold all of y'all. Does that mean he's the dopest? No.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if that's your measure, you're doing it wrong. And especially as an independent artist, right? You don't have
Yes.
the money, the muscle, the budgets. You know, somebody was
Yeah.
just saying on social media, I think it was on Instagram, if you want a record on the radio, $50,000, and you can get your record in the Billboard. And I'm like, well, ain't everybody got $50,000, and if I had it, I wouldn't spend it on getting my song on the radio.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
I'd build a community
I can
center.
tell you a lot of stories about that, man. Yeah,
You
more than
know, the
50, and
cash envelope.
that's just New York. That's not talking about the rest of the region. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Yeah, man.
yeah. And
Say,
so
Boogie
and
said,
so,
count the blessings. living your truth and doing what you love, and tons of people can't do that, and that's a fact. Man.
Yeah, man. Some people, because of life circumstances, you end up having to give up your goal,
Yeah,
give up your dream
yeah,
because of life, circumstances. And so I feel blessed to be able to be
yeah,
like, I can still do this. You know what I mean? Like, and
absolutely.
not just even do it just in my bedroom, just for myself, for fun. Like, do it and have the world hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. And do it
I'm,
your way.
yeah, yeah,
Like that's sometimes what gets people. The stories don't come out. People's careers get contorted because like a label wants you to look as be rhyme or look or have an image a certain way, but it's not really that artist. You know what I'm saying? Like they're being authentic. Where you can just be authentic of who you are. Like if you want to do this type of vibe today, you could do that tomorrow. If something else comes up that you want to experiment with, you can do it, and it's all good. You know?
yeah, yeah, nah, it's great to have that flexibility, and I think that's what's dope about being an independent too.
Yeah.
Like as an independent artist, you've got creative control, which is huge. You know,
It's so huge, man. Like it has 100%, man. You put out
yeah,
what you want. You put out what song you feel you want to push. Whatever the
yeah.
case is, man. I think it's super dope, man. Yeah,
Yeah. And I love the affirmation because you have people who feel it, people give you feedback. And it's funny. I was talking to Mike G, and he was like, yo, you always have the dope beat selections. Like, you really are good
shout
at
out Mike T,
putting
man. I love
together,
Mike.
and he's another one who's been mad supportive, across our journey and stuff, like I said, from Red Alert
Yeah,
Productions in the very beginning to even
yeah.
collaborating with him on the House of Stone and doing a video with him. And
Uh-huh.
when we shot the video, we shot in New York City. He was like so cool, and that was like the first time we'd
He's
spent like
such a laid back
hours because
dude, man.
video
Yeah,
shoots take like a long time, but he was super chill, down to
yeah,
earth, like just real cool. Like y'all need me to grab some of the gear because we were going like guerrilla shoot video shoots. You just go
yeah,
from
yeah,
spot to spot
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
No permits, no permits, like
Yeah, yeah, just on the
shooting down,
fly.
you know. But and then we did have like a club that shout out to Ariel. She let us use Sutra to film some shots. This Club Sutra, it used to be in New
Yeah,
York
suture. Yeah, yeah,
and stuff. So we
suture.
shot there like, during the daytime, before
Yeah.
hours or whatever. He's Stars of Beyond. Shout out to Mike
Shout out
G.
Tony Blackman. What's up, Tony?
Oh yeah.
We got the
Everybody in here.
microphone for Peach Crew up in here. And Cliff, C
Indeed,
Boogie, and
indeed.
Dumi, Tony
What up?
Blackman, another ambassador of hip hop. What's
Tony is
good?
like the OG ambassador of hip hop right here.
Yeah,
She's like been doing it, been doing the cultural diplomacy work from the jump, and also Freestyle
man.
Union. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
The cornerstone of
absolutely.
that. Tony,
Like,
you in the Smithsonian. Every time I go in the Smithsonian, I'm like, Tony Blackman is an African American history museum, as it
yo,
should
man.
be.
That's as she should be. Absolutely, man, for sure.
Yeah, nah.
Cypher, the cipher.
Yeah. And the other thing that's in the African American History Museum of History and Culture, I always try to say the full name, is a flyer from the Trinity Hip Hop Festival. Like it's Jay Dilla's
The one Jay Dilla was that? Yeah, that's dope.
they have his sampler, and then they have a Trinity flyer on the wall or whatever. So I remember I took a picture and I was like, yo, to the Trinity, I think to Greg and McGee and all those folks, I was like, yo, is this a flyer, Trinity flyer in the African American History Museum? They're like, oh yeah, we know. I'm like, what do you mean you know? I didn't know that. And I was like, this is crazy. Like that joint is historically preserved forever. This festival that shout out to McGee and Jason, man,
Yeah,
who founded
yeah,
that joint 20 years ago. Can you imagine 20 years? And again, that goes to that youthful exuberance we're talking about. They're at
yeah.
Trinity and they're like, we want to
It's
start an
just been some
international hip hop
college kids
festival.
coming up with an idea like, fuck it, let's do this shit. And then you just make that shit happen. Word.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, straight up. So
Yeah.
it's wonderful. And that's been like a dope central meeting place too over the years of interacting and connecting with folks at
Book can tell
Trinity.
you, Book lives up there. See, Book
Oh
lives up
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's his hood.
Word up, word up. And
Yeah,
shout
I
out
met.
to Kaim, the rap poet, man, because he's been holding it down as the cipher central, curator at that joint for mad long, probably since the beginning. And he's a super prominent role and important in bringing the community together
Yeah,
at
Clips
that
too. Yeah.
joint,
Yeah,
for
man. I
sure.
mean, I met Five Steves who's from Jamaica there. I met Sergey from Russia,
Okay.
MC Shug from Russia there. That's how I even got to get to go to go to Russia, just connecting with them and doing workshops out there.
Oh,
Keisha
wow.
Fresh from Toronto.
I met
Um,
Lisa Fresh at this last joint just this year in
oh,
April
what?
for the first time. Yeah.
She's a sweetheart, man. She's good peoples, man. Yeah, there's a lot of people I met from going up there, man.
Yeah.
It's always a dope experience going up there, man.
Yeah,
See
my
what's
Dukes
up.
was there, so got to build with her this time around.
Oh, Bob Dukes
Um,
is awesome, man. Yeah, she's a beautiful, such a beautiful soul, man. Yeah,
yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, it's like just real cool just getting to do and connect and be a part of events like that as part of the journey, because that's where you meet a lot of like-minded heads that are
yeah,
kind of moving the way you move and kind of,
yeah.
learning things. Boca Floha, shout out to
Vocal
him, met
Floor,
him
yeah,
couple
Vocal Floor,
times at Trinity
yeah.
and stuff and performed with him a couple times at
Oh,
Trinity
no, that's
and
what's up.
stuff. It was him, Boca Floja, me, and I can't remember who else opened up for Dave East like 3-4 years ago at Trinity
Oh,
and
nice.
stuff. So that was there. And then I was there this past year. And they did more like a global cipher, where they just had folks ciphering over beats, producer beats, and like live music stuff. So like
Oh,
real dope setup. But
nice.
yeah,
Yeah,
man, it's like experiences like that make it all worth it and carry you through. You know what I mean? Like, because if you
absolutely.
just try to do
Yeah. Like every
industry,
time I go to go to that festival, like I just come back like revive. Like I feel like just inspire, like it reinvigorate. Like this is why. Not to say that I don't feel great otherwise, but you get that extra like like that. Like you talk that the battery pack. Like man, this is why I love hip hop. You know what I'm saying? This is why I'm about. This is what it's about.
yeah,
So yeah, it's dope, man.
for
Yeah,
sure.
see, Book said definitely got to be there next year. Speaking of which, I think that we should talk about this with Books too. The beats and bars down in Atlanta that Cool Kim does every year.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
something that
Shout out
like you
to
should probably
Kim.
connect. Yeah, should connect with Books about that. I think a whole bunch of planning. I'm looking to make my way out there from Rio to come out there and come
Oh
check that
wow,
out too, man. Yeah, yeah. So it'd be dope to everyone just get the whole crew down there, get the Avengers assembled, man.
Avengers Assemble, right? Right. Word up, man. Titanium era is
And it's
coming.
here, man. Talking about the Avengers, man. Yeah, I mean, we got C Bugs over here. You yourself. I mean, that's like one of the tracks on the Freedom Project. It's called Hip Hop Loves Avengers. It's like, we just came up with the idea of like, basically, obviously the Avengers, always is a classic, comic and it turned into a dope, some movies. But when just come up with the idea for it was just like basically kind of what we've been talking about. Like, let's just get like-minded people that are about like making a change in the world. Like, you yourself, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute about, being an educator, doing workshops and stuff like that. People are just like making dope music and, really about making a change in the world and, having a meaning and having a purpose with all this stuff, man. So I have a question though about the song, man, because like everybody kind of took on a whole different role and like, what made you come up with doing Wonder Man for the verse, man? I've been
Not
waiting to
gonna
talk to
lie,
you about that.
it was
I'm gonna ask him on that on
yeah,
there.
it was. It's funny because I was looking and I was like, okay, Thor, Captain America, Black Panther, and I was like, that's all the kind of right there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like right there, like you could just do it and people be like, oh, it's expected. And I was
yeah,
like, and then the Wonder Man show was coming out too, but I'm like, do people really know his story? Like, cause he's kind of like a hero slash villain, like in and out, like doing good
yeah.
things and then getting co-opted by the dark side to do other things. And I'm like, I wonder if people know. And so as I started like looking more into it, I was like, this is kind of an intriguing character, but I only had 8 bars. So I'm like, man, to tell the story, like it's gonna need. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna come
It
in
was
with the
dope that you
highlights.
pulled that out because I was like, damn, I was like, you know your stuff right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I was like, and I remember too, like to talk about comic books, and that's kind of the funny thing with hip hop. Like, there's a lot of influences that we all came up on that are a
Yeah.
part of what we do and how
Yeah.
we absorb music and kind of the
Yeah.
things that we get excited about and the references. So it's like the karate movies and that
Yeah.
stuff spilled over into Africa too, man, because we'd go to visit my uncles and cousins in the township, so it'd be kind of the equivalent of the hood, if you will, here, the
Uh-huh.
suburbs and the townships.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we go, and they have this place called Scout Hall.
Scott Hall.
So it's
Okay.
like when you go to Scott Hall, I think it was like 5 cents or something, to go watch the karate movies. There's no seats in Scott Hall. It was standing room
So you got to
only.
stand up and watch the movie the whole time?
Stand up and
Well,
watch the movie. But it's a
luck until
karate movie.
someone started
So
doing some karate moves.
everybody's watching and talking like the whole time. Everybody's talking. So I remember seeing Jackie Chan Snake in the Eagle Shadow, and everyone's just like blah 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 blah. And then Snake comes out and he's like, Choo-choo. And then everyone's glued to the screen, and then they start fighting, and everyone's like, ah, ah, ah. And everyone's reenacting the moves or whatever. But it was like so exciting, man. And then the action stops, and those joints were dubbed anyway.
Yeah,
So not everybody's reading what's
There we
going
are.
on there. Yeah. You killed my father 40 years ago. Now I'm gonna kill you. But yeah, so anyway, that's like those influences that we had. But then back to the comics, older brother, like I said, Munda, he was into comics. He had comics, and all this stuff. And so we'd flip through. And I remember, I want to say, I'm not messing this up. Black Goliath. I remember the Black Goliath comic. And it stood out to me because he seemed like an intriguing figure, like this guy. And so anyway, fast forward to now, like when we're talking about Wonder Man, he also seemed like this intriguing figure of
definitely.
Like what's going on. And then, just his powers, like, man, this dude's powers crazy, like, or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, I got 8 bars, man. I'm going to hit y'all with some sprinkles and then y'all get the rest. Go buy the comic if you want more or whatever. And then I also knew, too, because I was like, well, it's like, how many people on this joint? 8. I'm like, what's going to happen? Because initially they were like, pick a superhero and write about it. And so I'm like, well, what's going to happen if 3 of us all write about Iron Man? Like, it's not going to be, we all going to be like talking about shooting lasers and Jarvis and whatever. Like, like if I pick Wonder Man, like nobody else is going to come with this, I don't think.
Oh, definitely not. Bone noise
so
come cool. To the bang. Nah, it's a big joy. Yo, Book said you killed that joint too.
Nah, appreciate it, man. And I don't know
they
if
killed it too,
up...
man. They did a crazy crate. I was talking about that with their episode too. Yeah, that'll be my little amp song I'll be listening to. Like, that song, man. It's dope.
Y'all's verses were hot. I was almost like, man, can I go back and write some more? Like these cats really killed it. Like it was dope. They definitely elevated on that joint. But I don't know if people picked up on it, but I did my little Sugar Hill tribute. I am Wonder Man. And I like to say hello.
I was like, man, you trying to make me put some roller skates on, man?
Yeah. To the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, the purple, and yellow. First you gotta shoot some lasers out your eyes because you're Wonder Man.
Yeah, man.
It's just all about having fun with it and doing something to me that I felt like, okay, let me like play around with this and see, how I can come with it and and do that. So it's fun. And that's the thing I like. Like people are always like, yo, people do a lot of collaborations. Guilty as charged, Your Honor. And the reason I do it is because it makes you come with it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm doing a joint and Chubb Rock's gonna be on it, like you gonna come with a whack verse? Like, come on, man. Like you gotta come with that heat so that they'll be like, oh, excited about it, And so I always like that too, because then like working with collaborators when they're like, yo, your verse was dope. Then it's like, oh, again, that
Yeah.
battery recharge. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this person who I respect and admire that's been doing it thinks that what I'm doing is dope. And not that you need validation to exist, but it definitely
But it's
helps, right?
dope,
We all
man.
need
Appreciation is
affirmation.
always
Yeah.
dope, man, in life, man, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I think that's why when we do like the group chats with the songs, I love sending when I get a verse, sending it to everybody so everyone's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that creative flow comes in.
Yeah. And speaking of which, man, so we said like Renee's like, okay, everybody do a verse. I mean, when you record your verse, just take a video of you recording your verse so we can use it to make a music video. And so I think I was recording my verse on my own, so I didn't have somebody there to shoot while I was recording it. So after the fact, I set up the mic and
Yeah.
rapped, cell phone camera and rapped it, whatever. And then today I see Kwame threw his joint in there, super produced, super dope,
Yo,
crushed
literally like 10
everything that
minutes
I
later, I see
did.
you
I
come in
was
like,
like,
yo, man, I just got to
man.
cut. Here we go.
I was like, man, and my joint, I had just kind of recorded kind of like close up, with the
Yeah.
mic right here and just like spitting, like, reading. I think I was reading my verse off of paper or something because I had just written it or whatever. And then I seen his joint just so well produced and so fresh and dope. And he's got his outfit on. He's got his stuff in his background because his like studio space is crazy anyway with all his different, collectibles and everything. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm like, at least let me throw on Adidas tracksuit and kind of bounce with it. Now that I know the verse in my head, I can be a little more fluid with it.
That was the clip said that's how he felt about your verse on Microphone for Peace. Like that inspired him. And he did mention that when we
Oh
talked, when
wow.
we had our first episode. And yeah, and so it's dope, man. Like, so if Tony, I have everyone's still on, yeah, I mean, we can get into Microphone for Peace, man. I mean, just how that whole came along, man. Because, hey, talking about that video, because Eclipse is going to be he's producing the video, man. So he'll hook your part up, man. Don't worry
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, yeah. Put some special effects.
Don't feel slighted about Kwame.
Blow out my background, put a cityscape behind me, or put me in a factory, actually. It's Microphone for Peace. Like, put me on an assembly line, like in a forge, like, be the armorer, like from the Mandalorian or something, put some armor on me, forging that Microphone for Peace. But nah, yeah, it's just dope to do that stuff, man. Because I remember when we did the Unity video, and that was
That was
dope,
dope.
too. Because we did
Yeah,
the
when we came with
song,
that was dope, man.
different
Yeah, that
MC,
was really
and
dope.
then talking to different artists about like, hey, can we get dancers from across the world to do like little stuff,
Yeah.
do little, like small routines, and then we put it all together to
It came
again.
out dope, man. Yeah, when you came up with the idea, and we're like, yeah, let's do that, man. That's like we got a couple of pieces for that for like the time is now. Just to do like just different little video reels and stuff like that. Just kind of, and it was kind of based on that idea. I was like, yo, it'd be cool to get some breakers to do some stuff, and do that for sure, man.
Yeah,
Eclipse said he
man.
already updated your verse, your video on because he's been working on the video now, so he
Oh, I didn't
updated
even
his.
realize that joint was in motion already. That's
Oh,
dope.
yo,
I
it's been
can't
in
wait to
motion.
see
Just
it.
since all the videos he got, yeah, he's been putting stuff together. Just as they're coming in, he's just adding that, he's just adding the pieces. So we just only got a few more pieces left, and then he's gonna do his thing. So C Book said, "Oh, that shit was fire." The Kwame.
Yeah, no, he blazed
Yeah.
it. That was dope.
And
That
he
was
pulled
dope.
out the
Set the
mic. That
bar.
mic too is what made it kind of ill too. Cause like that's what made it kind of ill.
Yeah, nah, for sure, man. That's what like when you hear the when I was watching whatever, I think it was Mice and Men, the
Uh-huh.
Wu-Tang documentary, and they were talking about how iron sharpens iron, right? Like
Uh-huh.
your brother is gonna come, fresh, or your sister is gonna come fresh on this track. So when you
Uh-huh.
go in, you gotta do your best or whatever. And that's why when cats are like, "Yo, can you do this like in a couple days?" If it's like, nah, I gotta make sure I don't just slouch on it or whatever.
Yeah.
I gotta come with it, because you ain't know who's coming with what, and you always want to be your best representation. Because, like you were saying, you'll find stuff online that somebody did as a compilation or as like a feature, if years later, so you want it to stand the test of time, you know, like as an
Yeah,
artist, as a lyricist, you want to make sure you came with it so people don't be like, oh, hold up, that joint was kind of all right. What happened to him, you know?
yeah.
So you always want to put your best foot forward, best voice forward.
I think that, but yeah, I mean, and I felt like everybody did that, you know, obviously in the Avengers song, but also the Microphone for Peace, and like having 13 artists on one song, and you know, everybody kind of having that same vibe, and you know, just kind of coexisting like that. Just the energy kind of I felt was infectious with all of you guys, like even putting that together, and you know, and even though you know, I don't, it's not challenging, but you know, everybody's gonna have different opinions on certain things. So like everyone might have different things, but what was super dope about it is everyone coexisted amongst that. Like everyone could be like, all right, cool. Like I get that. This some people want this, cool. I'll fall back on this, but I feel this, you know. But at the end of the day, everybody's like thought process around it was we wanted to 100% be the dopest song ever, and everyone got the whole concept, which I felt like this is super dope about it, you know. And
So,
yeah, sequel said pure definition of a posse cut. You heard? I'm gonna put it in
yeah,
sequel. You
yeah.
heard?
So I'm gonna ask you though. I wanna, and if it's been said before, then we're gonna say it again today.
Right.
How did the microphone for peace, so the actual microphone, like, how did that, like, who said, we should create a microphone, and this is who produces them? Like, how did all that come together?
So here's what happened. It's kind of, and this is like the whole thankfulness of like how useful you get and the benefits of social media. So you know we have to stop shooting projects, right?
Uh-huh.
So this guy Simon Graham, who's a part of the organization Humanity Metal, who's a collaborator, who the organization that actually made the microphone. He DM'd me. He's like, yo, you know, I'm looking at this project. It looks really cool. Like, you know, that you're doing stuff against gun violence and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah. And then he started explaining the company Humanity Metal. What they do, they collect guns in like the hoods in different areas around the world, and then they melt the guns. But then they'll also like give the person a melt like money or something like that. You know, it's an exchange. So
Right.
we started talking and having conversations about stuff. He's like, you know, how can we collab? How we can do some stuff? And you know, they would say, I was like, well, what? You know, I was like, what do you do with the metal? Like, you know, what goes on with it? You know, and sometimes we make projects and stuff like that. And I was like, why don't we make a microphone? I was like, can we do that? And then he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so why don't we make a microphone on a gunmetal and create a statement around that? And you know, and then something I said, and then we started diving into it. I said, can you? And then I was like, can you make the microphone so it's functional? You know, not just I would say a trinket, but just not you know, just an item. You know, and he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we can actually do that. I think. You know, they went back and they went back and talked to their team. It's like, yeah, actually, we can do that. And yeah, and so then I was like, cool. I was like, so let's do this. And so Simon also worked at this school called the New School in Philadelphia, where we actually started doing some workshops there. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, let's do this. I said, why don't we do this? And then so with the conversation was like, well, what's the mic going to look like? What type of mic? And I was like, you know what? Why don't we let the kids decide that? Like, let them look at some mics and something like that, and let them come up with the idea what the mic, what the mic can look like. You know, so they did that. The kids came up with the idea of the type of mic. So then we went into the whole molding process. So it took like about maybe 9 months to maybe a year or something like that to go, because they're based their whole team is based in Sweden. So everything that got done was
Okay.
based in Sweden. So then it had to get shipped to the States. So yeah, so then you know they started showing the images of it, and we're like, cool. Then we were like, yeah, let's put the logo on the mic, you know, the Hip Hop Loves logo, like right where basically like almost where you click the mic to turn on the mic. Let's do that. Then they put their emblem on it, which is like kind of a periodical chemistry chart on there. I was like, cool. So they made two. They
Okay.
made one for themselves without the Hip Hop Loves logo, but then because they came in and then one with us. You know, like, all right, we're gonna give you that. And I was like, all right, cool. So then when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, what do you want to do with this mic? Like, what do you want to stand? You know, obviously you had to think of what it stands for. You know, as far as like, you know, for like anti-gun violence, standing for peace. And it's like,
Right.
and I was looking, I was like, yo, why don't we just do something kind of cool with it and like have the mic be like an entity similar to like the Olympic torch. Let's make this go around the world. Like, so maybe we could do workshops, you know, like it can go in certain museums or like just, you know, just like exist to like where people can, where people could like interact with the mic, so to speak, you know, in some capacity and like showing the unity around the world with this, you know? So then I was like, yeah, let's kind of let the mic kind of flow. So it came to Philly. Sir Highlight had it for a while in New York. And then Exodus took it to the UK, and then he brought it to Raquel in Barcelona. So it's currently in Barcelona. So we're actually the first time now, like in about a couple of months, they're going to do a session in Barcelona. And Sergey from Russia is coming to Barcelona in a couple of months. So they're going to set up the studios where he can record like a whole bunch of artists even from Spain and other countries can record. Yeah, they had it too. That's true. See, Boog and all them had it in Connecticut. We actually just had it. We brought it to the state. Yeah, they're there. So I exported to CT. Yeah, so the funny story, let's get to it. A cut to the story. So they had the mic, and they had the mic in their studio. And they were thinking about recording with it, but they were like, nah, man, if this shit breaks, we don't want to get blamed for nothing with that. They're like, yeah, we ain't messing with that shit.
Right.
Yeah, and it was Shadow Agency, too. Shout out Shadow Agency, yeah. So we're going to record with it. Was actually, you know, I shout out Nicole Duncan Smith that works at was working with the Hip Hop Museum in New York. And so, you know, I was talking to her about, she's on the Hip Hop Loves Advisory Board. And she was like, yo, what about, you know, having it reside in the museum? And I was like, you know, I'm open to it. Like, you know, talk to them, you know, everyone about it and see what's up. I said, that could be cool. But I also wanted to, you know, also was thinking about talking about being delusional with something like, yeah, let's put it in the British Museum. Let's get it in some real, like, and even the conversation today, I was like, that could go into the African American Smithsonian Museum. You know, like that's something, and it's funny because like my father published a magazine called Black Diaspora Magazine. They just hit me up recently on LinkedIn because they wanted some of his magazines in the Smithsonian Museum because it was a magazine based on Black people in the diaspora. So he had like stuff about in Africa, the West Indies. You know, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. My father from there, so it was a whole bunch of that. And he's still doing that for 30 years. It was a publication like you could mail in, but he never really took it on the level of Ebony and
Jet
Essence and all that because Jet. Yeah. Just to talk real talk, a lot of that shit just become very mob based, and he never wanted to get involved in all that stuff. Like he was kind of like, yo, I want to keep it this. I want to have control of all this stuff, you know. And so, you know, respectable, and rest in peace, my dad. So they want that. So now I'm thinking about it now. I was thinking when you were talking about that, I was like, I might hit up that lady and see if we can put this mic in that museum, you know, like if it can reside there at some point. So yeah, so it's supposed to go into the museum of actually a hip hop museum, you know, that they're putting in the Bronx. That's supposed to be open up, I think, next January. So they have a space like it's supposed to be in the front. Like it's like they have different elements of it. Like so, the MC room it's supposed to be like the first what do you call like the first thing you see, the first case you see when you walk in. That's what they would have planned to do it. So. You know, I'm all for it, man. You know, within that, and you know, I'm all for it. Like I said, I know you. You know, I want to get it to you down in DC. Boogs will get it to you too. You know, it'll get to the States. I mean, people here in Brazil want to vibe with it too. So it's gonna make its rounds, man. So that's kind of basically how the story went with it, and it's like kind of one of those things like we've been talking about this conversation, like. You just kind of have a vibe and a frequency of an idea, and you just kind of like, yo, let's just go with it. And, you know, then it just kind of manifests, you know. And I think when you come from that place where it's like just an authentic vibe and you're like, yo, like that's your intention is there. You're like, oh, you know, and you have the vision for it, then these things happen and manifest. So that's pretty much the story of it.
Okay. No, cool. Very cool, man. Yeah, and I'm glad you broke it down. I knew some parts of it, and then anybody watching or catching it, you know, hears all of it and stuff. But yeah, now cool to hear about your pops, man, doing it.
Yeah, and thanks, Chico, for that. Yeah, my pops was real like that, like when it comes to certain things like that. And you know, and it's funny too because even with this project, I'll say this, like that wasn't even an idea. Like we talked, it was an idea to do a song for the microphone for Peace, but it wasn't intended to be on this project at all. And then one day I was just sitting there vibing one night, late night, and I was like, "Yeah, we got, you know, we want to do this." I was like, "Yo, why don't we just do a song? We should just put, you know, freedom." I said, "The microphone for Peace. Like, let's just put this. Like, we might as well make the song and put it on the album." So then I talked to like Majest, Highlight, Raquel. I was like, "Look, man, I think we should add another song to the project and put the microphone for Peace and make it." And I was like, you know, and I gave my reasons on it and everything. And they were like, "Yeah, man, for sure." And I was like, "All right, so let's figure out who we want on the project," you know. And I said, you know, I definitely want like people who align with it and people who've been like day ones as far as like with hip hop loves like yourself. So I was like, you know, obviously you. I was like Maya. You know we had other people we want to get involved with it, like you know Mike G, but just timing with certain things, you know, and it is life sometimes with you know other people to get involved. You know, thankfully, see Bugs, Eclipse got on the track, you know, and they laced it. Tony Blackman, if she's still around, she got on it, you know. And one of the things we wanted, I mentioned with doing the song was also we wanted to be equality, so we wanted to make sure we had a good amount of female MC representation on the song with males as well, and intertwine it so then there's that vibe because I feel that's important with hip hop because sometimes females don't get represented as much as they should, you know. And also, well, on a global level, we're like, all right, let's make sure we hit. You know, we can hit all the 6 continents with this, you know, and then thankfully, you know, it was like Nick Cole just hit up Kwame about it, like, yo, you know, they're doing a song. He's like, yo, I'm down. You know, and then he's like, yo, you know, when he got the track, he had his joint in 3 days, like 2 or 3 days. He had it in his verse, and then he was like, yo, I'm down to do a remix too, you know, so, we're going to do that too, you know, so, yeah, that's how it all popped off, man. Yeah.
Nah, that's real dope, man. Like, definitely cool. And I think too, like when you have people that are kind of like on that same frequency, on that same vibe, things come together. You know what I mean? Because we're all pros, but we're all like kind of, you know, progressive thinkers. You know, trying to make things happen, all doing work. You know, when you get with people who are doing the work, man, it's a lot easier because these are cats who are used to like putting in work, you know what I mean, in service, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's a difference when you're just like, yo, I want to get my shine. I want to, you know, push a Lambo and all this stuff versus a cat who's like, you know what? I want to reach the community. I want to help. I want to build. I want to build and not destroy, you know?
Yeah. So and you know, when and the dope thing about it is, and I kind of felt this way about it, you know, when it's like, when I'm putting out the ask for people about it, like, yo, you want to get down on it, like, I feel like people, even like you said, people are busy or people got a lot of stuff going on, but people would look at this like, yeah, man, this is dope. You know, I mess with, I'm on. You know, I'm in. You know, so that was like the one thing about this project too. You know, it's called the Fun Project, Freedom, Unity, Nirvana Trilogy. But it's fun for a reason because we want everyone to have fun on this project. You know, from the artists to recording, collaborating, producers, to even us as, you know, in the background, like promoting and marketing. Like we wanted a lot, like real alignment with the project, you know, like where you're not forcing anyone. Like if someone does not mess with me, cool, that's all right. If it ain't for you, it ain't for you. That's fine. You know, we want the people to really just connect. And we feel like when you have that energy in a project, you know, and I'm going to go back to even how you were talking about, you know, Zimbabwe legit, you know, when YZ and all, like that was just that divine alignment. Like you had people who just aligned to your project that, you know, so it wasn't like a push or something like that, you know, and you actually had people coming to you, you know, being like, yo, man, like I want to come up and perform the song, or I'm down to do another song, you know, or yeah, pray the poor, all that. So it goes, you know, it's all relevant to that, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And to to be able to do it and do it multiple times, I think is a testament, right? Because if you do a
Yeah.
collaboration with somebody and it's not what they expect or they're not thrilled with it, they probably won't do another one with you, you know. But when you
Yeah.
have, like, I'm like, man, I did 3 joints with Chubb Rock. Like, how did that happen? Like, you know what I mean?
That's
I
why
consider
when I
that
started
a
asking the
blessing.
question, I was like, "Yo, that shit is dope." Like, you know, and it's not and I have to say it, like, it's not like it's really situations where you sitting like on a label with all these budgets and like, yeah, man, I got 50K for you, man. You know, you want to get on the chat? They're like, all right, cool. Like, this is just some genuine. All right, I'm down. Like, what's up? What's the beat? What's the concept and all that? And it's a testament to you at the end of the day. You know, like,
Appreciate that. Yeah.
which is dope. You know, like obviously the music, but it gets back. The music's coming from you, bro. So you know,
Yeah.
that's a testament to you, man.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's also like, I know from your standpoint, coordinating projects with multiple heads on it is not easy because people have
Woo!
different timelines, different time zones,
Languages,
different
cultures,
schedules. Yeah. And then
how
also
you have to
too, like,
address people, because like, you know, some people you can talk very direct about certain things. Sometimes you have
yeah,
to be. It's like coaching a team. It's like being a coach of a team. Like you got to do, and you know, everybody has egos to a degree, which is okay. You know, and that's how we live. But you gotta be able to manage all that at the same time. You know.
yeah. And then also just too, like, life
Yeah.
gets in the way, you know what I mean? So sometimes
Absolutely,
best
man.
intentions, and it's like, hey, if I'm doing something that's survival based, you know, maybe this recording thing is gonna have to be on pause till I can get past this stage, and I might have all the desire and love and willingness to do it, and it's
A
just like,
hundred
hey, I need
percent.
to work on this existential crisis to make sure that I can continue to, you
Yeah,
know, and
you gotta
stuff.
pay. You have to pay your rent. You know, whatever the case, and that happened in this project. You know, and that comes down sometimes even with, you know, like even culture, because some people can just straight up tell you, hey man, you know, I can't be on this now. X, Y, and Z's happening, or you don't have to say what's happened, but I got something. Life is life. You know, it's
Yeah,
just one of those things. But sometimes, you know, like I've had people come up to me, like I didn't hear from a while, and I'm like, yo, what's up? So then I'll hit them up like, yo, man, I'm not even hitting you up about the song. I'm hitting you up about you. Like I haven't heard from you. Like, are you okay? And
yeah,
then, you know, sometimes the conversation is a whole different place. Like, yo, man, you know, I got
yeah,
this and that going on. I really want to do it, but I can't right now. You know, I'm sorry. You know, this, and that. I'm like, yo, it's cool, man. Like, handle your business. Like, take care of your life, man. That's
yeah,
more important. Like, you know, we're human beings at the end of the day. It's not just about this music, and that's what, you know, I feel like that's the energy, you know, we bring it into these projects. You know, it's like
yeah.
caring about one another, not just, you know, we care about the music, but it's caring about the people that create the music at the end of the day.
Yeah, nah, exactly, man. You gotta do the Michael Jackson check-in. Annie, are you okay? You tell her that you're okay. You know, telling you, man. Make sure, because I say this, man, and this might be the most important thing of all the stories I'm talking about tonight. Check
Yeah,
on people, man. Like, just in
word.
general, like everybody, because I think folks tend to think like, oh, I saw him post on Instagram. He's doing
That
all
don't mean
right.
shit.
Or, oh, he did a show. You know what I mean? And they're like, yo, the face of depression, the face of trauma, the face of trouble can be the happiest face because people, you know, we put on a brave face. You know what I mean? If I have a
Yeah,
show to do that I'm getting paid for, I'm not necessarily dragging all my baggage to the show because I want to not disappoint the people who are paying me, the people who paid to come to the show. But after I leave the show, I might not be okay. So I encourage people, you know,
it's a
check on your folks. You know what I mean? Tap
I,
in even when you don't need something. Like, I love it
yeah.
when people,
That's I
you
I
know,
actually do me. I actually put that in my schedule sometimes. Like, yo, I'm gonna take a half an hour, even just send them a text message. You know, hey, what's going on? You know, some people
yeah,
I call. You know, it depends on the relationship. Some people I text, or just depending upon how I communicate or how they like to communicate. You know, and I did that. I did that today with a couple of people. You know, people even a part of the HHL crew because I know there were some things that were, and they were like, "Yo, I appreciate the check-in, man." Started telling me what was going on. You know, like, and I can tell you, like, you know, my mom passed away in January, and you
man,
know, I
I'm
was
sorry to
dealing
hear
with
that.
that. So even creating this project, you know, there was a lot of joy, but there was a lot of me doing some healing and you know trying and just taking that in, as far as like, just kind of get with my emotions with that, and even with the
Yeah.
team, like I was verbally see like, at one point it was like a few months later, I said, I need a couple of days, I'm just kind of embrace, like the emotions could have come up where let me sit with this,
Right.
and vibe with that, So to your point, man, yeah, you just never know because someone can look like Superman or Superwoman or like you said, you're hearing from all the time, you see the posts or you check you see and sometimes when you're seeing people do like being like the bionic person, sometimes that's hiding the grief or whatever the stuff that they're going through because it's the avoidance or just trying to being in like a survival type of mode. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, straight up. And then the other thing too is also like uh you never know how those kind words, those thoughts can
What it
help
go? How long it
move
goes?
somebody, it can help somebody in difficult times. And they
Yeah.
might not say it right then, but they'll later be like, yo, you really, checked on me at a, sensitive time and stuff. And
Yeah. And I
because I think
appreciate
as a hip hop artist, you know what I mean? It's like impress all the
that
time.
bravado. Yeah.
Yeah, that bravado. Like I
I'm
got it
good,
going
man.
on.
So I can
Yeah,
handle it.
yeah, I'm grinding, yo,
Yeah.
nothing can stop me, yo, I'm on top of the world. And it's like, that ain't every day. Even in the
Yeah, I mean, we're
music,
all
it
human
comes out.
beings, man. Everybody's gonna go through some great days, and sometimes you're gonna go through some not so great days, and sometimes you gotta push through it. But and we can all, we all want to feel loved and supported at the end of the day, and appreciated at the end of the day. That.
Yeah,
So and
man.
so again, yeah, what you're saying, it's you hit the nail on the head. It's important, man, and Eclipse said it in with exclamation point. Check your strong friends. Absolutely, because sometimes the ones that are strong that you feel like the other leaders are sometimes the ones that they put up a shield. And sometimes
Right.
they need that vulnerability. And vulnerability is like the most courageous thing you can be in life. To me, that's how
Yeah.
I've kind of evolved. Getting up in my maturity, in my stage of life. Like I feel like that's courage.
Yeah.
Because some people are not afraid to say how they feel or afraid to, feel like, okay, I can't do this or I'm upset or I'm sad or I'm grieving or, or this and that, especially for men. I could say that for men and even black men at that. People are men of color. I think that, and I feel like, that's why I feel it's important, to, like you said, to check in and, and leave an open space that if it's sometimes just being an ear, not even like what you need to do is this. No, just listen.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's important too. Because a lot of times, all advice is not always applicable to every situation. And so,
Absolutely.
like what you said, like not always being like, oh, you need to, oh, I can't believe you did that. You should have, if it was me, I
Yeah,
would have done. And it's like, if it was you, you'd have been me and you'd have done the same thing. So,
yeah. You might have done something worse. You
yeah,
might have been dead.
yeah, nah, straight up. So that's
Yeah,
good.
like yeah. I mean, and everybody handles things differently. Like I'm like there could be something like there could be something that you're not afraid of that I've got a whole big fear of, and vice versa. Like or you have this strength and I might not have that same strength, but I have some other strength. So I can't judge you and say that say I'm a better person than you because I can do this and you can't. We like again, we're human beings, man, and we all have to respect that. So it's important, man. And I think as we, mature in life, I think with lessons in life, we start to, we can see that and acknowledge that more, man.
Yeah, yeah, nah, straight up, man, and like giving people props, stuff, because that's another thing with rap. Like I always hated when you go to like a cipher and cats were too hard to admit that, yo, this cat killed it. And I think
Yeah.
this is more of a self-sustaining, supportive space where cats will be like, yo, your verse was dope. Oh, I loved your intro. But when you go into these like battle spaces, that's why I never was like really in the battle because
Uh,
cats will not give you your dap because they're
yeah.
trying to be better than you. Everybody and there's no fans. It's just artists, and that's like
Yeah.
sometimes some of the worst environments with just artists performing for other artists and they talking to their friends while you performing because they think they're so dope. And when they get up and perform, the people who performed already leave, and those aren't supportive spaces. Like a space where it's like, yo, your set was really dope. Yo,
Yeah,
you really
give
killed it.
props to people,
You
and
know?
it's the same thing I feel like even just in life, like give props to people while they're alive. Like, I see this stuff all the time when someone dies and people want to be the first. And I don't knock it. I mean, like, hey, it's good to acknowledge someone, if someone meant something to you, you want to put that up there when they pass, cool. But also do it while they're alive.
Yeah.
And like, because I saw that like, Mr. Complex passed away like this earlier this year, and I saw a whole bunch of people posting stuff and all these things and bringing like, and then people go like in the woodworks and like pull out these like exclusive photos and stuff like, hey, cool, that's fine, I mean, it's cool, but also like, I started saying, you know what? I'm gonna start really doing something like once in a while, just really acknowledging people on like on social media. Like, hey, I just want to acknowledge you because you're a super dope person, and I acknowledge you for being a great human being or a great artist, or and people were like, oh, you're glazed. No, it's not glazed. That's just being able to be comfortable in your own skin to acknowledge
Yeah.
someone. Plain and
Yeah.
simple. That's it. You
Yeah.
know.
And I've noticed that too, like in interacting with these different, hip hop luminaries and legends, like the biggest icons in our culture or that are real and are
Yeah.
grounded are not afraid to give you that,
Yeah.
even if they've had hit records or toured the world. Like
Yeah.
it's the cats who haven't really gotten it that are kind of shaky or people who are shaky in who they are afraid to give props because they
For
think
sure.
in some way that takes away from them, but it's the opposite. And like you don't lose anything by giving somebody flowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's if anything, it makes you bigger. And people are like,
Yeah.
yo, that artist is so cool. I met him. They say don't meet your heroes because they might, disappoint you. It's like that's the cat. It's like, yo, I met him and I met her and they were so cool. Like they were so down to
Yeah.
earth. They were so friendly or
I think
whatever.
it's
Like
dope when you hear stories like that of people when you encounter people like that. Absolutely. I'll give you an example. Like it's the same thing like the hood. I can say basically back in the day, like, when people would walk around in the street and like, we had so much tension, especially in New York, like even around the time when you start first coming in New York. And I know you kind of experienced it and seen it, or, and I mean, like when people start really mean mugging you, like in the street, like, and then like, this whole that, like, I got to look you in the eye, it's like, dude, like, I know you're probably just scared, doing like you're doing that because you're masking something, like you're masking fear,
right. Yeah.
and like, or sometimes, and people, everyone could have been a victim at some point because you're just like, hey, I'm trying to survive, and like, and I get that, like, why can't we just be on some chill shit, like,
Yeah.
what's good, like, all right, like, do your thing, or whatever, you help with something, you good, like, it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be like that, So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I think that's what's dope about like our whole network. It's like we don't have that, we have people who can give their flowers. Like even when you look, with people talking about you today, even in the chat, people like, yo, your verse inspired me, like, or this, this, and I think. I think that should be easy to be able to do that, man. It shouldn't be an issue to do that, Like,
Yeah.
it should.
Yeah, now my experience in New York, man. So I went to college in Virginia, and I was at Virginia Tech. I think it was like
The B-Tech, okay.
24,000 students. It was probably 1,000 Black students at the time, so small group. And so the whole big thing was like acknowledgement. Like you see another brother or sister on campus, you're like, "Hey, how you doing?" You
Yeah,
nod, say what
the
up or
head
whatever.
nod.
So I go to New York or whatever, and I'm seeing people on the train. I'm
Ain't
trying to
that
do
type
the
of
head
party,
nod, and
bro.
they're looking at me like, I don't know you. Like, what you looking over here for? You want
Yeah, and then
something?
some people might be like,
It's
"Are you
like, oh,
gay?" Yeah, like yeah, like it's just so
just be
yeah,
like,
it's just that
hey,
energy.
like I don't know you. Like, why are you saying what's up to me? What's up with you?
Yeah,
You got a problem?
yeah.
you know, you know. Because they were saying in New York, like recently, the translation, like if somebody's like, "You good?"
You
It
good?
could be,
Or you good?
"You good? You good?
Yeah.
Like, you trying to try something?" Or like, "Are you good?" Like, this is funny, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it's so
And
true,
I
man.
think it's important to like let that guard down and be around people that allow you to let your guard down. You know, that's
Be
be in
yourself,
safe
man, where you can
spaces.
be with, yeah, exactly. I think, you want to be in a safe space. Like, you don't want to be in this, like, survival mode or, like, living in fear. Like, we want to live in a place of love and, like, harmony and just, like, unity, man. I mean, some people can chuckle out and be like, that sounds kind of like, but it's like, yo, why would you want to wake up being happy? Why would you want to be in your own hood and have to be afraid of walking on your own block? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, walking into your building, like having to fear walking up the stairs, like that creates PSTD, bro. Like, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
It does. Straight up, straight up. Yeah, man. Definitely. Like I think like just being at peace, man. Like embracing all humanity, you know what I mean? And being in situations where you're not always in competition, like unhealthy competition. Like I think
For
healthy
sure.
competition, like where I want to come correct on the verse, but being that unhealthy competition where there's no support, people are downing each other. That's what I was saying, like builders, not destroyers.
Yeah,
We're building something here, that's bigger than, like Dead Prez said, hip hop.
it is, man. It definitely is. I mean,
Transcend.
and hip hop is also, I think, which is really dope. People sometimes don't really. Hip hop is really a reflection of like what's going on in the world, man. I feel like a lot of time, like it's yeah, it is, like as far as a lot what you see, like, even the different type of genres, like if someone's like, well, this person's talking about this, I was like, well, that's what's going on,
Yeah, yeah,
or even if it's authentic or if it's inauthentic, well, that's what's going on, like, we're looking at faces and stuff like that. So it's,
yeah. Nah, just saying.
Salvi Dollar, bon noite, irmão. Yeah, my boy Dollar from Rio's on the mic. He's an MC too. He was on one of the projects too, man. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
cool stuff. Cool
Yeah.
stuff.
So what else you got going on, man? Like, so what? Talk about a little bit about like the workshops you got, like even the project at George Washington University, and and talk about what else what you got going on up and coming, even music wise and all that stuff.
Yeah, nah. So first on the music front, definitely the album Forward to the Future is out. And I'm gonna keep pushing it until the wheels fall off.
Okay,
And so it's called Forward to the Future, done through Spit Slam, which is Chuck D's label, and that in itself is still like unbelievable.
that's
Like
super dope,
it
man.
was
Yeah,
all it was
you
all
did
a
a track with
dream.
him too. That's what's super dope too, man. That's just crazy. That's it.
Yeah, and that's who I came up listening to, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I remember looking at the lyrics inside It Takes a Nation of Millions, where they put the lyrics inside the cassette
Shout
and
out Chuck
seeing
D,
how
man. Yeah.
so anyway, that project, with Speech from Arrested Development, Elder Sensei, YZ, a whole bunch of cats on it, and really excited about what that project says and all the music and the messages on it. So really, putting that out, and it's out on vinyl, it's out on cassette, even it's out on CD,
Dope.
and then it's out on digital and everything. We recently just removed it from Spotify for reasons that people can infer, but it's on other streaming services.
Got you.
But
Okay, say that.
mainly for me, it's like the vinyl and the CD and cassette, or just download on Bandcamp, because that's where artists actually get some money. Like
A
I do the
hundred
math.
percent support artists on Bandcamp. I mean, that's just the
Yeah.
best platform right now for artists, especially. I mean, all artists, honestly, but even especially independent artists, where you have a lot of creative control and you have proper accounting of your money, of what you can put in your pocket within that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's dumiright.bandcamp.com for folks following along. But yeah, and you can get the vinyl. I
What you
ship
can
the
do to
vinyl
me
right
to
from my
do me
house.
real quick, you can also shoot me the image of the album, and we'll upload it. We'll put it in the stories. We'll upload it in the stories on the Hip Hop Loves tomorrow,
Oh,
so
dope,
people can
dope.
so the people can see it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, dope, dope. Yeah, and I ship the vinyl from my house. I can sign it if people want it. Put some stickers and whatever extras in the
I
package
need an
and
autograph.
everything.
That I need a Zimbabwe legit autograph. That's all right too. I was thinking about that when I
Word,
was talking to Dave, man. I need that.
word. Word. Nah, definitely get that. So yeah, just that's pushing that heavy.
Okay.
In the meantime, like we were talking about keeping the wheels turning, I'm working on some new material. So I have a
Okay.
bunch of tracks in the works. I'll probably do an EP.
So,
So I have some cool
okay.
concepts, some dope beats, like some real stuff that I'm always excited about the stuff, but I'm really excited about this. It's some
Yeah.
super dope collaborators. Just in the middle of finishing up a joint with Phil Most Chill, if
Oh,
cats are
okay.
familiar, but he's nice, man. He's a spitter, talking about, making sure that your pen is sharp when you're collaborating. Like everybody
Nice.
I collaborate with is nice, but
Of
it was
course.
cool because he's on Spit Slam, so it was cool to get to know him through that and
Nice.
stuff. But also
So
just
is
to
the EP
collaborate.
gonna come out on Spit Slam as
Yeah,
well? That's
yeah,
one. Okay, cool. That's
yeah,
what's up.
and stuff. So looking forward to that. It's gonna be, don't have a date yet, but it's gonna be
Okay.
coming soon. But have some real cool collaborations, real cool beats, concepts, and themes. And then it's interesting, not interesting, but it's cool. The cat that did the cover for Zimbabwe Legit House of Stone is a visual artist named Ania Khan. He's from Nigeria,
Okay.
and he was doing art in DC and then started doing murals. So like if you go to Ben's Chili Bowl, for those that are familiar in DC, there's a
Ben's
huge
Chili Bowl
wall.
with DC. Oh,
Yeah, and there's
that's
a
the joint.
mural, and it's got like Chuck Brown, Donnie Simpson, a whole
Nice.
bunch of people on there, and he did that mural. And then he's done huge murals around the city. He did a huge mural of Marvin Gaye, and
Oh,
he's got this other concept he calls the Shaolin pencil, where he's got like these characters,
nice.
talk about comic book characters with like a huge pencil. Is like, your pen, the pen is mightier than the sword type thing.
Might have to
But
get in there
anyway.
for your Avengers mural, man.
You got to. But yeah, so anyway, I worked with him on the House of Stone, but we were
No.
talking recently, and I'm like, because I always like to get artwork for the cover, like photo and like
Yeah.
typography is cool, but like I love to get like visual artists to cook up something and we collaborate.
Nice.
So him and I have been talking about doing a cover, but it's funny because like again, we meet at events, meet at a thing. When he's doing the artwork, we talk, but it's kind of like 10-minute, 15-minute conversation. But it's
Yeah.
just like, hey, what up at an event? But him and I were talking the other day for the first time in depth about growing up experience because he grew up similar to me, diaspora parents in the U.S.
Yeah.
Kids grow up a little, then move back to homeland, and so he moved back to Nigeria. And our stories are similar, bro. Like he was
Wow.
also trying to get cassettes, and people were bringing in like, "Yo, this is the new," or whatever. And he was like, he remember when cats would come in and be like, "Yo, this is Kid and Play," but it was actually a mixtape. But Kid and Play was the name that the dude remembered. So it's like, "Oh, it's Kid and Play," but it was like all mixed different artists. So they're hearing all these different artists on it. They used to
Nice.
also watch movies, at these like bootleg theaters that are not really theaters, and
That's
see,
hilarious, man.
and all this stuff. So, but anyway, so he's doing a cover for this new joint, and it's gonna be ill. Like we've been talking about like concepts, and he's like, as a visual artist, he was like schooling me on like, kind of like movie posters, and how all the movie posters have like the main character's head, and then
Yeah.
all the others like there's a whole theme,
So,
and they
yeah.
and they do that for a reason. Like, and he was telling me it's really just to advertise who's in the movie. It's not like for the creative poster, but he was talking about like what makes a good poster, what makes, interesting, what draws the audience in to like, oh, because sometimes you see in the poster itself is just cool. The concept, same thing like with the album cover. So
Yeah.
we've been talking about different ideas. Like he's a crazy visual artist, like I said.
So,
So it'd be cool getting that. Cause also for me, the albums and the thing is like a collectible. Like back in the day when you had that cassette or that CD, it was like you'd read the liner notes. It was like something, a possession. Whereas now music, just like streaming, it's just in your phone. Like you don't really have albums if you're not purchasing the physical. Oh,
yeah.
DJ RBI's on here. What up? What
What
up?
up? What up, DJ
That's my
RBI?
man, 100 grand.
Yeah,
Like
Dollar
dope
Boss, Charlie
DJ.
Hermo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So, but yeah, so that's in the works or whatever.
That's dope.
And then flip it, like Missy, flip it and reverse it. The workshop. So what I was doing is funny because I was doing workshops. It's kind of doing the work before, naming that I'm doing the work, right? I wasn't like,
Right.
hey, I want to become an educator and do workshops. It just kind of happened that, hey, you know the thing and you want to impart that knowledge and share it with youth, and this is a good
Mm-hmm.
tool. And so doing workshops at schools, middle schools, high
So
schools, elementary schools, community centers, or, even like libraries and stuff.
super
Um,
dope.
and doing like rap workshops, like, okay, we're gonna write some rhymes, we're gonna do these things or whatever, working with other organizations,
Yeah.
doing that thing and getting that experience, but also sharing kind of the, the techniques and knowledge that I had from my experience with folks. And I always said when I did workshops, rap workshops, it wasn't just about hip hop and rapping. Like, again, it's bigger than hip hop. It's like self-confidence,
Mm-hmm.
addressing an audience, communicating a point of view, sharing a message, communicating the thoughts that are in your head to somebody out loud. And so doing that through song, and also just kind of building that interaction, collaboration, and just thinking,
Yeah.
brainstorming. Like when you
Yeah.
freestyle, you got to think of words quickly. Also emphasizing that the more you read, the greater your vocabulary, the better an MC
100%.
you'll be and stuff. And so, yeah, just definitely things that are applicable in life in general.
Yeah.
If you want to start being an entrepreneur, you're going to have to convince somebody that your idea is a good idea to get funding or
Yeah.
whatever, or convince investors or convince the subscribers or the public or customers to, so stuff that you can learn through, hip hop techniques or whatever, rhyming
Yeah.
techniques, freestyling, projection, addressing a crowd, being charismatic, getting people to come along with your idea and all that stuff. So doing all that stuff informally, and then as things evolved, opportunities started to arise to do it formally. I remember I had started some friends of mine and in DC were like, DC is kind of like a hub for international development, like
Yeah.
a lot of not-for-profits and different organizations and people from
Yeah.
different countries.
For
And so we were
sure.
like, hey, a bunch of these people are our friends, and then a bunch of us are creatives and artists, so why don't we bring all that together? So we were doing events at an art gallery called Voices, and it was like
Dope.
Voices organizing for international community and exchange
Super
or
dope.
something and stuff, and it was cool. And through that, we're bringing different, creatives together, different organizations, bigging them up, letting people know what their mission and vision is and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like a thing that I was doing. And then I got involved with international cultural exchanges and had that opportunity. And so that was like, wow, talk about Notorious B.I.G. Whoever thought hip hop would take it this far
So far, right?
and be like, yo, I can go to Thailand and teach hip hop to folks that I would have never come across or never met
Word.
otherwise. And, again, share those same things about,
Yeah.
vision and mission and stuff. And so it was dope to be able to do that. And like, yeah, I've got a thirst for it now. I've been doing it just on a shoestring. I can get funding and budgets to do it on a bigger scale and
Yeah.
travel further than I could have traveled. You know what I mean? Like I could go in the DMV to Maryland. You know what I mean? Go to
New
Jersey or
York.
something. You know.
Tokyo.
Now it's like, hey, we on a world tour.
Sure, exactly. You know what's
um,
funny I want to mention about that? With everything you've been talking about tonight, and I say it's a one message everyone can take away with this, following your passion, man. Because
yeah,
everything that you've been doing, how you manifested all this, like it's just seamlessly falling. You're like, hey, I just was doing this, and now it becomes like this is your life, you
yeah,
know, which is super
straight
dope,
up,
man.
straight
It's
up.
like, yo, you love hip hop. You're like, yo, I want to get into this. Then you got into it. You MC, as this DJ RBI said, got the legend Dumi on here. Dollar Boss said, "Happy birthday, Chief." By the way, he's in the
Oh
hip hop
yeah.
loves. He's in the hip hop loves group too. So he saw
Okay,
all the
nah,
birthday
appreciate
wishes.
it.
So he's a
Yeah,
happy
nah,
birthday,
for
brother.
sure,
Yeah, my brother.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, man. And then you talked about how the workshop, like, yeah, you like, hey, I just was kind of just doing it seamlessly, community centers and all that. And you're like, oh yeah, now like what? Okay, I'm getting funding for that. And now I'm going to Thailand. I'm doing this, like passion, bro.
Yeah, nah, straight up. And then the other thing too, I went to a leadership conference, and the biggest lesson I learned at the conference was like, tell people your story, man. Like networking.
That
Like a lot of times people have an idea, and I don't know, I'm gonna say this, not to be controversial, but I heard this school of thought where they're like, if you have an idea, don't tell people because they'll discourage you or they might, steal your idea. And I feel differently from that because
I
my
agree.
experience has been when I tell people, they're like, oh, my uncle works at da 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 da, so he can probably connect you with so and so, And so maybe
Yeah,
it's telling the right people your story. Maybe if people are
yeah,
hanging out with shady cats, they don't want to share their plans because
yeah,
they'll get appropriated. But like, tell people your story, man. Especially like that whole elevator pitch. Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a rapper. Oh, okay, and then it ends there. You're like, oh, I'm doing collaborations with international organizations and artists to try to use hip hop as. Oh, wait, actually, I know, you know what I mean, and
yeah.
that's how things happen.
A hundred
When you
percent,
kind of
man, and I
say,
agree with you, and I agree with you on that, bro. And because I don't really hide stuff like that, like unless I'm just trying to organize something first, like and then put it in motion. Sometimes I might not tell people, but it's not like I'm hoarding the idea, you know.
yeah,
I mean, to me, I look at it like this: I can make the dopest fried chicken in the world, right? And if you want my recipe, that's cool, but you're still never gonna make it like me because whatever energy I'm putting into it is just the kind of energy. But you can still make dope fried chicken off the recipe, but it's still not going to taste like mine. You know,
yeah,
to
you're
the
original.
like perception. You know, you feel what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, straight
why
up.
should you? You know, like it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like, okay, you could do it. Then you
yeah,
have your lane, I have mine. It's all good, man.
yeah.
And then
And then
like, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the other thing about it is kind of like exercise. It's accountability. If I say, "Yo, Renee, I'm putting out an EP in a month," you're gonna be like, "Yo, how's the EP coming?" If I haven't done nothing, it's gonna be like, "Oh man, I need to get on my job,"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you got to
If you
have
got the right people in
accountability
your circle
partners.
with that, for sure. It's like, yo, what's up with that? I want to
Yeah.
hear it. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
and so that also is a motivating factor. When you tell, same thing with a business plan or an idea, it's like, hey, I'm going to start doing this thing. Have the people around you that are supportive ask you about it because that keeps you on, oh man, I've been
Yeah.
focused on these other things. I need to get back to that. That's why I use the exercise analogy. If you're like, yo, I'm going to start going to the gym 3 times a week, somebody gonna ask you, hey, how's it going? Have you been meeting your goal? And it kind of
Yeah.
is your motivator to be like, hey, I need to make sure
If
I'm
someone
doing
has a
this thing.
genuine interest, then yeah, cool. And then go to that. You know, I think where it comes to the point of when people maybe why people say don't do it. I think it goes based on the mindset because if you don't like if you have the mindset and you're already driven to do it, there's nothing going to be stopping you to do it. Now, if you're kind of like not there or maybe insecure about it, and then someone in your crew might be jealous or something, and just try to talk you out of it. That I can see why maybe you don't want to tell people, you know. But I feel if you're strong-willed and strong-minded and you want to do something with it, like you should say whatever you want to say because you be like, I don't care what you're saying about, I'm doing this, you know.
Yeah, yeah, not for sure. And I'd say if you got jealous people in your crew, get a
Cut them
better
out.
crew.
You need to cut her.
Straight up, man.
Yeah,
Straight up.
man.
But yeah, definitely telling people and doing the stuff that you are interested in, and also talk to the people. Find and talk to people that are doing what you want to do.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was a Grammy U mentor for the Recording Academy, and I kept
So,
telling my mentee, like, talk to people who are doing the things that you want to do. Like, oh, you want to be a great studio engineer? Find some great studio engineers that are working with artists that you think you want to work with and ask them, hey, got 30 minutes to talk? What, how, are there things I can get involved with? Can I observe? Can I, you know what I mean? Because then you find out information. You know what I mean? Like you got to gather information.
absolutely.
All information can't be found on the internet. I know the internet's a vast resource, but
But
human to
and
human
everything on the internet's not
interaction.
true either. So you got to be
Yeah,
and
yeah,
human experience, I think, trumps everything amongst all that stuff that you're gonna find
yeah,
at the end of the
yeah.
day.
And it's like, so do both, not to say you
Yeah,
shouldn't surf the internet, but if you're not out in the real IRL, in real life,
yeah,
dealing with people, like you'll be on your computer, like that'll be your business. Like this hip hop is a community and is done, in person to person interactions and exchanges. So
Absolutely.
I think it's super important to like stay active and then find out ideas and then find people who are like minded, you know what I mean, to connect
Yeah,
with and build with or whatever.
for
So
sure.
anyway, doing informal workshops and stuff, libraries, schools, and all this stuff, different organizations. I would also go to universities and schools and talk about my background and experience, talk about how I came to Zimbabwe legit, how I went in the industry,
Yo,
and did some stuff at University of North Carolina. Shout out to Mark Katz. Spoke to a
nice,
couple of classes down there, and he was like, "Yo,
nice.
you're good at this. Like, this was cool." He's like, "Are you interested in doing more?" I'm like, "Oh, for sure." He's like, "I'm gonna put you in touch with some of my colleagues in different universities, different places." So he did, and I ended up connecting with Professor Kajikawa, who was coming to George Washington University, and he's like, "Oh, cool. Let's chat. Let's meet up and talk." And then I ended up speaking. He teaches a hip hop history class at GW, George Washington University. So I spoke
Nice.
to his class a couple semesters and stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, it's really cool." He appreciated and liked it. Students had a good time and really appreciated the experience and the discussion. And he was like, "Is there anything we could do that's kind of more frequent than just kind of like once a semester?" So we talked about ideas. He had worked with an ensemble at Oregon University, University of Oregon. And
Okay.
so he was like, "Is that something?" We're like, "Yeah, let's try it out." And so we bring together musicians, MCs, vocalists, sometimes even producers. And it's a 1 credit class at the university that they can take every semester. And so this is like I'm going into like my 12th semester teaching that joint.
Oh,
So it's
nice,
really
man. That's
cool
what's up.
and stuff. And we've had anywhere from like a dozen to like one semester we had like 20 something students, and we'll have
Nice,
somebody on drums, somebody on guitar, somebody on bass, somebody on keys. Then we got the vocalists. Sometimes we'll have like a
nice.
producer in there or whatever. We had trumpet, saxophone. One time we had somebody playing a euphonium. You know, I
Wow.
can look that up or whatever. We had a bass clarinet or whatever, and they're always
Yeah.
like, "Yo, can that fit?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we go, because
We
all the
gonna make
sound hip hop
it
draws
work.
from jazz and funk and soul and and all this stuff. So there's room for it all when we mingle at the mall, as Q-Tip says. So. Um, it's been beautiful, like, and they learn about hip hop and stuff, and we recreate the classics, just like if you were in like learning about the classics, jazz standards. We learn about hip hop standards. So we rock Tribe Called Quest, Can I Kick It, Far
No,
Side, Lauryn Hill, Nas, J. Cole. We've done it all, like, and they'll
that's
bring in
dope. And
suggestions like, "Yo, can we do this one joint?" Remember last semester, one of the vocalists was like, "Yo, can we do this one song? Amy Winehouse and Ghostface Killer." I'm like, "Oh," so we did that. I'm no good. And they have the vocalist singing the Amy Winehouse part. MCs, those
wow,
MCs usually write their own rhymes because they'll be like, "Yeah, we want to spit something." And we put that all together, and it's real dope. Have performances
that's what's
during the
up.
semester, then end the semester with like a culminating performance and stuff. So yeah, cool stuff, man. Like real cool. Shout out to DJ RBI. He's
Yeah.
now adjunct teaching DJing
Oh,
at
nice. That's what's
DW and
up.
stuff and
Shout
stuff.
out RBI. Yo, that's dope.
Yeah, so I always reach back and bring my peoples along, when there's
Uplift as we
opportunities and
climb, my
stuff.
brother. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
So, cool stuff, man. And just like excited to be able to do it and grateful really to be able to do that. You know what I mean? To be
Mm,
like, hey, I'm teaching at a university. You know what I mean? I never started out with that, like, oh yeah, one day I'm gonna teach at a university. But as you evolve and start to see, and like, hey, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
It's only
Yeah.
right. And love, what the students bring and their creativity. And again, another energizer, right? Like invigorating, like this supportive environment, seeing how it impacts them. how much they love it, how much they enjoy it, and kind of what they bring and their creativity and excitement and energy. And so that continues to bolster what I do, keep me
Right.
going.
That's what's up, man. I mean, yo, man, it's really dope to just hear your journey with this and the continued journey because it's not over, with everything. And I think you've been made a huge contribution to the hip hop community, just on a global level, which is like super dope, man. I mean, you deserve your flowers, and definitely, yo, keep moving, keep pushing, keep elevating, man. Because the sky's the limit, man, and you just keep going, man, which is super dope, man. I just wanted to give you a props in regards to that, man. I'm very proud
Appreciate
of
it,
it. Like
man.
just to hear your story, everything obviously is not perfect, and if you persevere through, if you're going through ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, and it's like really seeing that and just seeing how like seasoned you are with this, and like just feeling, I feel the energy of the clarity you have, just like the direction of where you just want to go with, everything, which is dope, man. So,
Yeah,
keep it up,
I
my brother.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate the opportunity to chop it up and
Nah,
everything. I don't
likewise.
know if any of the folks checking in the DC area will be on stage, back on stage
Yeah,
September
that's
3rd.
September 3rd.
September
Okay,
3rd, yeah, at the place called The Pocket. Be
okay,
rocking myself, artist named Night Train 357, and another artist named Mark Toure. But we'll be doing a
yo,
dope show with live musicians, with a DJ, with vocalists, just the whole thing, man. Like a super dope show. And everybody's got like their own like band and crew. So it's gonna be like 3 different sets, but all dope, all hip hop, all progressive and like,
nice. So what
energetic.
we'll do is just like send us a flyer so that we'll post it up on our Instagram stories and page so people can see that, and so people can know about that. And where can people buy your music or support you and with any of your causes, merchandise or anything like that as well?
Yeah, main easiest place to go to is just dumiright.bandcamp.com.
Okay,
You can also go to dumiright.com and
okay,
that'll just jump you off but the e-commerce site is dumiright.bandcamp.com. Also
okay,
phmusic.bandcamp.com, either one.
okay.
And there you can get t-shirts, dope Dumi Right t-shirt. So yo, speaking of hip hop loves, shout out to Rocket Gun, man,
I thought
RG56.
about him a
He
few
did
minutes
the
ago. I was like, when you
logo
started talking
for the
about the art,
Dumi
man.
Right. Like he did the logo, man. So
Shout out
real
Rockets.
dope.
He's a
Um,
dad now.
oh really? Okay, I didn't realize
Yeah, him and
that.
Bo Jeezy had a kid,
Dope.
had a baby girl, man. I
Oh,
think about a
awesome.
week ago. Yeah, I spoke to him the
Oh
other day.
wow, wow. I have
Yeah,
to
like
hit him
yeah,
up and shout him out. But yeah,
yeah.
super
Shout him
dope.
out. Yeah, he's
Collaborated on,
doing.
did a verse on his album or whatever, and then we've done, verses together on projects on Hip Hop Loves. He was also in
That's
the
it.
Unity video
Yes,
dancing, with
he's actually gonna
partners,
do
his crew.
something for the Time Is Now song too. Maybe we'll get him to do something for Microphone for Peace or something like that as well, man. We'll
Oh,
figure it
okay.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
figure it out.
yeah. So yeah, nah, just yeah, definitely hit up the
Shout out Rocket.
dumiright.bandcamp.com. Get your t-shirts with the dope logo. Get your CDs or vinyl of the whole catalog too. Like you can get CDs for the whole catalog, or you can get digital download if you so desire. But I do the math for people, man. Stream my album 10,000 times or
Uh,
buy a CD because that would be the same equivalent. So if you're like, oh, I'll just support you, I'm gonna stream it. You got to stream it 10,000 times,
yeah,
or
buy
you
the
can just,
CD.
or you can
Yeah,
just
buy
buy a
yeah,
CD.
buy the CD, man.
Yeah,
Like
because ain't
yeah,
nobody streaming nothing 10,000 times. One
yeah,
song anyway, one
yeah,
album.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I appreciate when people, and some people don't necessarily want physical. So I'm not gonna be like, oh, you need to change your consumption habits for me. But if you
Right.
so desire, you know what I mean. That's where the support is. Um, Yeah, man. And just like, stay. I'm on Instagram. Everything is Dumi Right,
Okay.
RIGHT.
They did right.
So
So you got the
on,
website, DumiRight.com, the website. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, yeah, cool, man.
yeah,
Yo, Dumi, man.
Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, real good chopping it up, bro.
No, man, we're gonna do this again, bro. And even like, this is the third episode of HHL mic check Thursdays, man. So we had to get you on here, man. And I was like, listen, like, it was funny how it came up the concept of it. I was like, all right, well, let's look at who, we want to get a lot of the artists on the Freedom Project, but I was like, well, who really we want? I was like, all right, I gotta hit up Dumi and Sid. And you're like, I put that one day, you're like, nah. I was like, well, this works. And you're like, man.
I'm glad we did it now, man, because the next couple Thursdays till December, I'm gonna be starting next week. I'm gonna be teaching Thursday nights is when we do that.
So perfect timing.
Ensemble. So this is great.
It goes back to alignment, my brother, and
for sure.
Absolutely. This is big grand, man. Man. So I mean, like I said, definitely support Dumi. Support, go to his website, get some merch, get some music, whatever the case may be. Hit him up with a DM, book him for a show, book him for, workshop, whatever that is. But, definitely support the brother. He's doing some really dope stuff, man. Yeah. Definitely appreciate it. Man.
Definitely, I really think that, there's a good wave happening. You know what I mean? And let's ride this momentum together. You know what I mean? Stronger together.
Absolutely.
And appreciate you. For I don't know if you see yourself as like Coach Pop or somebody, or quarterback or whatever. Phil Jackson, coaching the triangle offense for the Avengers or whatever. But yeah, man,
appreciate them. I appreciate it, man. I definitely appreciate it. It's an honor and privilege to be, collab and work with you guys on these projects. It's like, to me, it's just like a partnership. I look at it from that perspective. When it comes to a lot of the stuff, and it goes back to gratitude, man. And I'm just really, truly thankful to see what this is. And, when there's a shared vision and it's going back to like what you're saying, like working together, I think, that's what we should be doing these days with all this stuff, and I think, everybody can support and help one another. I think there's a lot of stuff that go on, like when I see some people okay, there's this icon and there's that icon, and sometimes someone's like, well, if you're going to like this icon, you have to hate this icon. No, you can, it goes back to even how people can admire each other, and be like, yo, that person's dope. Look, both people are dope. And both people are dope for different reasons, man. And, like I said, just I'm appreciative of you, man. And, it's an honor and privilege, to be working with you for all these years, man. And, so super dope, man. And, looking forward to even more greatness in the future, man. So thank you, man.
Love it, man. Appreciate it. Definitely, we'll keep doing it. So
absolutely,
forward, man.
All right, my brother. This is gonna end HHL Mic Check Thursday. My man Dumi Right in the building. Thanks so much for taking the time out on a Thursday, and joining us and cooking the pot up. And we'll talk soon, my brother. You already know.
Sounds good, man.
And thanks to everybody who tuned in today too, man. Thank you all, man. Appreciate you guys. And, this is just a building process. It's just the beginning, man. Titanium era is here, man. Let's get it.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace.